I keep seeing my birth mom, but she doesn't know it's me. So she had me when she was 14, and I, 24 male, was given up for adoption. My parents told me about her growing up, and I still have the letter that she wrote me that she asked if they could give it to me if they wanted. It's crazy reading it sometimes and knowing it was a literal child who wrote it, saying she's sorry she couldn't be my mummy, but she hopes I'm happy. She was open to having contact, but we moved for my dad's job when I was 11, and then it seemed impossible to find her. But luckily I did. She's working at this small restaurant, and I keep going, but she doesn't know it's me. We talk sometimes, and she seems like a nice lady. Sometimes when she says something like, "Do you want a refill, honey?" or uses another term like that, I want to tell her. I don't know why it makes me nervous. We talk sometimes, and she seems really genuine. If it's not super busy, she's more open to talking about random stuff. I literally drive 2 hours to come eat at this place just to see her, and it's like she knows me already because I'm there once or 2 times a week for the past 3 months, so she always says hi with a big smile. But man, if only she knew. And now in the comments, "Why can't you tell her? This makes me tear up." And OP replies, "It's hard, I don't know why. Every time I'm on my way, I'm thinking, okay, this time I'm gonna tell her. It feels easier talking to her without the heavy emotional stuff, but at the same time, I want her to know that I'm her son. Have you thought about leaving her a note? Leave your phone number. Explain that you were nervous but would love to talk to her if she wants to. Leave the ball in her court and let her reach out to you?" I think this is a good avenue. I wouldn't confront her with something so heavy while she's working. If I got that kind of news at work, it'd be pretty difficult to finish my shift. Tell her, please. I know it's difficult, but you say you want to. My mum gave up her first son through a closed adoption and searched for him for 30 years. It was heartbreaking when he finally found her and turned out to not be a great person. You've already met her and you know that the two of you get along. I don't know either of you, but knowing what my mum went through, I doubt that a day goes by that she doesn't wonder where you are. I used to long for my daughter that was adopted. I would visit a neighborhood park, watching all the children to see if I might recognize something in a child that would tell me it was mine. Years later, when my daughter was older, I sought her out. We have had a wonderful relationship for the last 15 years. She was at that park. I found out she grew up 5 miles from me. She could be craving reconnection as much as I did. I wish you a fulfilled journey and much love. She didn't give you up out of spite. It's a child who loved you. Please tell her, because I think for her, this would be the biggest joy in her life. Giving up a baby while she leaves you a letter to meet? Hun, she loves you. 14 or 80, a mother's love doesn't change. Otherwise, she would have erased any way to contact her. It won't surprise me that you were the biggest hole left in her heart, because a mother is never whole when she lost a child who she loves. If you were too scared, write a letter about yourself with a phone number or a mail, or leave a baby photo that she would recognize with your name and phone number in an envelope with her name on it. Then you don't have to say, "I'm your son," but take the step because regret is more painful than the present, and every moment counts. The present is the only thing you can change. You deserve her, and she definitely deserves you. And now on to the update. Well, I did it. I told her. And yeah, it was pretty heavy. My heart was even beating fast. I kept trying to think how to tell her. Many of the comments on my last post here mentioned writing her a letter, just how she wrote a letter for me. Originally, that was the plan, but for me it felt like I needed to say it. Oh, really quick, I want to say thanks to everyone for their love and support, mostly to all the birth parents out there who shared their stories with me. That's what really pushed me to have the courage to confront her. It meant so much, so thanks. Everything happened the day before yesterday. I did wait for her to be done with her shift, and that was when they were closing the restaurant already, and I waited in the parking lot. We said hi when she saw me first, but when I told her there was something serious that she needed to know, first told her sorry for keeping it from her for this long, and she didn't react until I actually pulled out her letter. And she started bawling from there. like screaming and crying at the same time, and didn't even have to finish the whole "I'm your son" speech. She just saw it and knew. It was crazy. Next thing I know, she's hugging me instantly, but then she pulled back and asked if it's okay to hug me. Of course it is. And we're just there hugging and crying in the parking lot. It hit her hard though. Her legs gave out for a second, so I had to actually hold her up while she was still hugging me for a minute. What really got me was her saying to me, "Look how big you got." Also, hearing her cry made me cry too. She went back to open the restaurant up, as she wouldn't take no for an answer, and we had a coffee, ate a slice of their pie inside, and talked. So much stuff we talked about. She told me the second time I came to the restaurant, she got a feeling, but for her, it was hard to believe it was me. So that feeling she had was pushed way down. Because she told me for years after I was adopted, she saw kids that would be my age and used to think that they were me. And then she would be crying in public. It screwed with her mind a lot and made her depressed, so she didn't want to do the same when she saw me, getting her hopes up like that. She says I look so much like my biological dad when he was younger though. We talked about him too. They stayed in contact with each other in case I ever reached out to one of them, so it would be easier to contact the other. I didn't have hope about finding my biological dad, since he was never mentioned, so I'm glad they both planned for this future scenario. She told me about how they wanted to keep me, especially my biological dad. He didn't want me to be adopted, but he knew that they had to because they were just kids. It took him a long time to get past it after I was born, she told me. That's why he didn't leave anything, because he didn't want to believe he might not see me again. We talked for hours, till almost 2 in the morning. They closed at 11. She just wanted to know everything about me, but her main thing was, am I happy? Were my parents good to me? Did I have a happy childhood? And I did. I told her thank you for helping to give me this life. We both cried again. She cried the most. Everything was very emotional for her. Sometimes she would look really happy, but then get sad again. After my 18th birthday, she was hoping that I would find her. That's why she stayed in the same city. But since I didn't, she always thought maybe I resented her, wasn't told I'm adopted, or maybe had decided that it was best not to have her around. It made me feel bad for not telling her sooner. She told me it's not my fault, and I did right going at my own pace. Honestly, she is so sweet. The way she kept looking at me with the biggest smile, it made me emotional sometimes. It makes you think, how can someone who's been a total stranger your whole life look at you with so much love? It's wild. We learned so much about each other. She asked me if we could have dinner soon to keep talking, and if at some point in the future, if I'm interested to come over to her house so I can meet her husband. That all sounded really great. We exchanged numbers, and after I left, she sent a text telling me thank you for giving her this gift that she didn't know if it would ever come. My girlfriend came over, and she hugged me while I cried. I wasn't sad, by the way. These were happy tears. Everything went better than I expected. There was still emotionally heavy stuff, but I'm still glad that we got to open up to each other. And now in the comments, I'm so glad I saved the former post to come back. Such wonderful news. I'm so happy for the both of you. And OP replies, I'm really happy too. Thank you everyone for all the support. You guys made my day. To see so many people here that were invested in how things go, it's so sweet. Wow, that's terrific. Happy for you, bud. I'm guessing she'll be reaching out to your bio dad then? And OP replies, she asked me if I wanted her to let him know. We don't have to meet right away if I don't want to, but just so he's aware. He's been wanting to see me for a long time. I told her to tell him, and we can meet up soon. My first actual meeting with her had me real pumped, so I thought, why not? I want to see him too. It's amazing to me how many of us, all around the world in our cars, in bed, on break, at a coffee shop, are all reading the same news and crying or smiling or feeling a welling up of joy at about the same time. You, my friend, have made so many people cry happy tears for you, and that's amazing. However, you know what's most amazing? You have the possibility of having 4 parents who love you so much. Adoption is such an emotional subject, and it hits hard even when you know the circumstances. I'm so happy you are now on track for the best ending possible. You and all your parents have the opportunity now to have an amazing family. And OP replies, yeah, I'm really lucky. I'm hoping meeting my bio dad goes well too. My parents are happy that I made contact with her. They still want me to ask at some point if we could all get together sometime, just because they'd like to meet my bio parents to say thanks again. I am beyond elated to read this. I'm sitting here, tears in my eyes, genuinely happy. I read your original post, and I wrote this whole post about my wife and her biological father finding her, and how happy they are now, encouraging you to tell her, and I decided not to send it. I didn't think it was my place, and hey, what if I'm wrong, and it didn't end up positive? But that smile, the one she looked at you with, I've seen it in my father-in-law, and that's where the tears come from. I know that emotion. I know that feeling through my wife and her father, and I'm so happy you told her. I wish you nothing but happiness. I hope this is the start of a new, exciting relationship with your mother. Cheers. And OP replies, it makes you feel special, you know? I'm not a parent yet, so I don't know the feeling, but it's the fact that this person hasn't known you for your whole life, but they still look at you with so much love. They love you and want you, and it's just a nice feeling. Thanks. I really hope so too. We talked for hours our first meeting, but it still feels like there's so much stuff to talk about. I'm really happy. Oh, you thought we were done? You thought we didn't have another update for you guys? Well, you're in for a surprise. Met my biological dad for the first time ever, and I'm very happy about it. Update. Lots of you asked to let you know how it goes meeting my biological dad, and to say it was emotional is an understatement. I've been feeling so many things since this all happened. We met a few days ago. Was originally supposed to be almost 2 weeks ago, but crap just kept coming up. Work, and then I got sick for days, but we made it happen. To be honest, this was more nervous for me because I didn't know anything about him. With my bio mum, it was different because I watched her from afar and got to know her a little before it came out. I asked my bio mum if she could be there too, just because she knows him better, so it was the two of us waiting for him at this park. He was already crying before we even got to him. This guy is strong too, so he pulled me in for the biggest bear hug and crying. He told me he wants me to know that they loved me so much, and he loves me. I lost count how many times he'd come back in for one more hug. This definitely got to him, and he kept saying thank you God a few times, looking at my face. The feelings, man, the feelings. We had so many of them. Hearing him tell me how much they love me even back then, it meant so much for me to hear that, and not gonna lie, that had me holding him tight too. I'm sure to everyone at the park it was weird seeing 3 crying people. My bio dad said he cried so many times just driving over here, and he didn't think that he had any more tears until he saw us. When we were all sitting down, it hit me that my bio mum was not lying when she said we look alike. Obviously he's older, but still, holy crap, the similarities. He brought gifts too, which was a surprise. It was really nice. He told me I don't have to keep them if I don't want it, but he felt weird not coming with anything, and he's wanted to give this to me for a long time. One was a teddy bear holding a picture frame of him at the hospital holding me. He was 15 years old. It's still crazy to realize that. And then the other thing was a journal. The journal thing was stuff he said that he started writing to me years after I was adopted. He was in therapy, and that helped him to cope, thinking he would give them to me one day. His way of still feeling connected to me, you know? I haven't read everything yet, but some of the pages were his thoughts, and like if he's still talking to me. How he felt when they found out she was pregnant, and then the adoption, everything going on in his mind when he first got hold of me as a baby. I didn't even know he was at the hospital too. It was not what I was expecting. It really got me. I read some more of what he wrote last night, and that really got me crying. I'm sad to think how much this affected me emotionally for years, and I also think it's pretty sweet that he wanted to write this for me. We talked about his own life, which was pretty hard. His struggles with home life and the feelings he had about giving me up, and then he wanted to know everything about me. Basically with the same questions my bio mom had. I made sure they knew they made the right decision because my life was pretty great. He looked like he wanted to cry when he knew that because that's all they hoped for, and it was something that he always wondered about for years. My bio mum left a bit after we were more comfortable so we could talk more in private once it didn't feel too awkward between us. From there, he told me stories about how he met my bio mum. Sometimes he'd point out stuff he notices about me that reminds me of her, or me and him having similar likes. For example, I love eating mangoes. I can eat them all day, and that's what I bought when we bought snacks at the park. He told me my bio mum was obsessed with mangoes even before she got pregnant, and while pregnant, she craved it even more. It's just cool info to know, even if it's random stuff. It's still stuff we have in common, and we both have lots. Both like hiking, playing pool. He was a swimmer in college, and I was on a swim team in high school. We both love rock music, especially 90s. My bio dad was really open about sharing everything. Like, he was really getting ready for this meeting. He hoped it would happen, and he prayed every day to see me again because he had so many things he wanted to tell me. Overall, really good first meeting. I'm glad how it went. He's open to the idea of meeting my parents. After, I told them all about this because they definitely want to meet my bio parents again if I'm comfortable with that. Obviously, if my bio parents are too. Let's see when that happens. I don't know how it's gonna feel for me. They've met each other before I was even born, but I never had them at the same place, so that'll be interesting. Me and my parents met up yesterday to have breakfast so I could tell them everything. My mom was so happy how it went. She actually cried too when I was telling them about both of their reactions. My dad was proud because he knew how hard it was the months after finding my bio mom and not really wanting to make contact yet. I'm really happy to have their support because it's hard not to feel guilty about wanting to know more about my bio parents. They gave me a really good life, so for a while, it's felt like maybe to them, I'm showing them that wasn't good enough for me and I'd rather have my bio parents. But they told me many times that they want me to do this for me, and they know how much I love them, and I really do. Finding them and meeting them was hard, but it was so worth it to me, and seeing their reactions made it feel even more worth it. Still can't believe it sometimes. I'm just realizing that this has turned into a long post. My bad. Writing this has been therapeutic, to be honest. Kind of thinking back to everything that's happened. Feeling really grateful. And again, I want to say thank you to everyone who has been on this journey with me. Everyone who sent their own stories, their love, their encouragement. You guys have beautiful hearts, and I'm happy that I had somewhere to talk about all this and receive so much love back. I just want to say to all the adopted kids out there, I wish you guys good luck and that you find what you're looking for. It's not easy at all. I feel fortunate that things didn't go badly or that my bio parents aren't bad people. And to all the birth parents out there who made this sacrifice, thank you. It's because of you there are kids out there like me who got to have a great life with loving parents. And in the comments, I'm so happy for you. FYI, if you're ever looking for gift ideas for them, a photo album of pictures of you as a kid, growing up, would probably mean the world to them, with some blank pages at the end for all the new memories that you'll make together. And OP says, oh wow, that's so cool. I love that idea. My parents got tons of pictures, so that might work. I'm so happy for you. I was crying tears of joy. My late mum's birthday was yesterday, and I've been gutted. This update actually made me smile. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And OP says, oh hey, I'm sorry to hear about your mum. Hope things get better for you. Please take care, and thanks for reaching out. This comment made my day. I know it was a few weeks ago that he found out that you had contacted her, but do you happen to know more details about when your bio mother told him about meeting you? I'm very curious about his reaction to hearing the news he obviously had been hoping to hear for a long time. You said your bio mom used to wonder about random kids that she'd meet, wondering if maybe they were you, so I'm wondering if he said anything along those lines also. Thanks for sharing all of this and being so lengthy and personal about it. It's been nice to follow something so genuine." And OP replies, "She told him the following day. He was out of town at the time doing a project for his work, but he flew back that week to meet me. They both told me he cried at first and kept asking her for full details to be sure that this really did happen, and she sent him a pic of me that we took at the restaurant. He never mentioned anything about wondering if the kids he saw were me. I know it was pretty hard for him though to accept what happened, which was why he started doing therapy. Thanks for reading my journey." My boyfriend thinks I'm cheating on him with a coworker that I'm spending a lot of time with. Now our relationship is turning sour. What do? I work at my university as a tutor. That means we are basically the assistants of the professors. We help to mark exams, read papers, read assignments, help prepare project proposals, etc. Right now, my uni was in finals week, and because the professor we work for teaches the basic modules, we have about 200 exams to grade. They are exams with essay answers and such, so it's not as easy to go over as it is with multiple choice question exams. Our boss is in the hospital due to the Rona, but we still have to grade them all, and we don't have that much time because we have to submit the graded exams so they can be put into the database. My coworker and I also study the same thing. At the beginning of the semester, we both got into a project class together. We didn't apply together, you get randomly thrown into a project. So now we work together and have to write a 50-page empirical project. So of course, we are spending quite some time together right now. We either meet at the office, his place or my place. For the first few hours, we will grade exams, proofread what the other wrote, and then we will work on our project. That means running statistics on R, analyzing, literature research, etc. That leaves the week almost completely full. I'm getting paid for overtime, but still. My boyfriend is absolutely not okay with this anymore. He said that he has asked friends, and they all say that I'm acting suspicious. He asks me to do it all remotely, which would be a huge inconvenience. He asked me to see my phone, and got mad when my coworker's name appeared under contacted regularly, which of course, we send documents via WhatsApp, questions, reminders, etc. He asked me point blank if I was cheating. I obviously said no, but I also got mad that it was even a question. I tried to reason with him, explain the situation, told him that this is nothing that will be forever. We are done with about 87 exams, and the project has to be turned in by mid-October. So after that, it'll be much less. He's saying that I'm unreasonable and am disrespectful. I'm saying he is self-centered and does not trust me. We've come to an impasse, and I'm spending the night at my best friend's place. Any tips on how to deal with this? And now in the comments. People are repeatedly pointing out in the comments that the main thing causing this issue is you going over to his house to grade those papers. So if you can meet at the office once a week, you are already meeting at your place. Why not just stop going to his and find another third option? If your relationship is so affected by this, stop being so stubborn about your working space situation and find an alternative. You could also continue going to his place, but much less often, until this temporary assignment is over. Continue keeping your partner informed as to when this happens and during what hours that you'll be there working. Dropping work or non-romantic relationships because your boyfriend is insecure is toxic, but it doesn't seem like you are willing to do any effort or compromise to reassure him that you have taken his concerns into consideration. If your texts turned personal and you two are actually having non-work conversations, I could see how that would be a problem. As long as everything was work-related, it should be fine. I understand his stress though. You spend more time with this person than him. Just an insecure part of your boyfriend. And OP replies, "Nah, there are of course some memes and things like that, but we don't have anything else. It's like 90% work, 5% memes, and 5% checking in on each other. If you spend all day together pretty much every day, why do you need to send memes to each other or check in on each other? How often are you the first to reach out to check in on your boyfriend? Oh my god, how dare she have a friend of the opposite sex who she works with as well? How inappropriate! Ah, come on. Let's not act like there's nothing that could seem inappropriate to her boyfriend. 1, it's a new friend who he apparently hasn't met or doesn't know well at all. 2, they're spending a ton of time alone together, more than she seems to spend with her boyfriend, at this guy's apartment. And 3, they are also messaging loads outside of the times they are together. I'm not saying it's inappropriate, but the vast majority of people would at the very least be concerned if their partner was doing this. Reading your comments, it feels like you are not putting the effort into compromise. You keep shutting down people's suggestions, like, why even bother asking for advice if you are saying not possible? Your boyfriend is saying that he feels uncomfortable, and you should be empathetic and work with him to find a place that is comfortable for him without jeopardizing your work. Maybe you can limit to meeting in public places or whatever. It's way more comfortable for your boyfriend than you going to his house. And OP says, not really possible. Most coffee houses are not big enough to be able to seat people inside due to COVID. The libraries are still closed for study groups, and our office is only open once a week. We go to our office when we can, but that's again only once a week. We live together, so every evening we cook together and we eat. Then we spend the night in the same room while he games and I watch my shows and draw. Again, memes and check-ins are not a lot. But obviously after working together for 2 years, we are also friends. Not best friends and such, but I think it's important for good work atmosphere. I don't even meet him outside of work. And now on to the update. So, we did break up, but to contrary belief, it was actually not my fault. He had been cheating on me with a waitress at his job, so I guess he was projecting. He tried saying it was my fault, but Jesus. So, it's over. I'm staying with my cousin right now. It sucks because now I have to commute for an hour to go to work and work on the project, but it's definitely better. And P.S. No, the first person I wrote to was not my coworker. Some of you have to revisit the concept of platonic friendships. Not everyone wants to fuck, and it's amazing how much hate I got, lol. And now in the comments, wow, projection. I don't really understand why you got so much hate on that first post. When I was younger, I dated a jealous man and was okay with his attitude, and was very much on the, your partner should come first above all your friends. It took a pandemic and realizing that I'm lesbian to dump him. I realized that life is too short, and my relationships with friends, family, co-workers, and classmates matter much more to me than a partner. I am too old to be with someone who is jealous like that anymore. I am glad that you got out of it, OP. And OP responds, lol, I hope you are so much happier now. Exactly, 100% agree. People were arguing that I was talking BS and making up excuses. They were trying to prove me wrong, saying I was not compromising enough, and that sending memes was laying the groundwork to cheat. They were saying that there was no need to be friends with him or go see him one-on-one. They apparently ignored that I was not only talking about work, but the project that counts as much as my frickin' thesis. That whole men and women can't be friends nonsense doesn't track anymore anyways. Not that it ever did. By that same logic, a gay man can't have any male friends, and a gay woman can't have any female friends. And Lord help the bisexuals. They aren't allowed to have any friends. Every single person who thinks that's true is just a relentless horn dog who would screw anything that moves, and the only way they can not feel gross about it is to convince themselves that's just how all people are. Even if you would have contacted your coworker first thing, it still would not mean that you want to screw him. Au contraire, it would have been a sign of trust. That's what real friends are for. This sub, in my opinion, is pretty toxic. I'm curious how you found out he cheated on you. How did that conversation go? And OP replies, a few days after the post, he used my laptop while his brother was resetting his. He logged into WhatsApp web, did his thing, blah blah blah, he went to take a dump, and I was gonna check my mails. I opened the browser, and there was WhatsApp web. First chat open was the girl he cheated with. Her name was like Jason Soccer, but had very clearly the picture of a lady, and the preview was something like, you should come over after work so we can finish what we started. Of course I clicked on it, and read so much effing sexting. How he said she was the most beautiful girl, and there were pictures, but I did not download them. Then I just screenshotted them and confronted him. What a way to find out. I think it's a pretty normal way to find out. Enraging for sure. Cheaters getting scared that they'll be cheated on? Screw them. Karma will hunt them down. Good for OP. She doesn't need to spend her life with someone like that. I don't even understand why it terrifies them. You cheated or are cheating, but you don't want it happening to you? What a self-centered thought process. It's like they do get the fact that cheating is inherently horrible, but as long as they're not on the receiving end of the hurt, they don't care. I can and will betray you in the worst imaginable manner that might even require years to process and get over, but how dare you pay me back in the same coin? Our next post is titled, I am being accused of racism after unsolicited comments were made about my breasts and I am confused and need help. So I, 24 female, work in a student housing non-profit in the East Bay, California. This non-profit has a majority student board of directors that works with a team of 25 to 30 professional staff. There is no dress code for student board members. I serve as one of the vice presidents on the board of directors. We do have an HR representative who mainly works with the professional staff, but who does also serve student staff. I should also say that I am white, and the individuals that I am in conflict with are Hispanic. After attending a Zoom meeting on Friday, I was contacted by someone in my organization who is not on the board, but is in a relationship with one of the other vice presidents on the board. Let's call this individual C. Female, unsure of age, and their partner is U, 30 male. This individual has never made any contact with me before. They introduced themselves to me as U's partner. They told me they thought I was very beautiful, but they were distracted by my breasts. They did not make any ask of me in this message. They just told me that they were distracted by my breasts and that they wanted me to be safe. To be clear, I do have large breasts, but the outfit I was wearing was something I could wear to church. I had just been at my second job at a religious library where I wore this outfit, and nobody made any comments on my dress. I did not respond right away when I saw the message because I was uncomfortable with her message. I asked a trusted coworker, D, for advice on how I would respond. This coworker also remarked that the message was strange and that their gut reaction was a question on why C couldn't just not look. After working and thinking on a response, I messaged C on Saturday night that I was sorry that my body made her feel uncomfortable, and while I wanted to validate her right to feel comfortable in meetings, I also felt uncomfortable that she was making unsolicited comments on my body, especially my breasts. I let her know that even if I were to wear turtlenecks or baggy clothes, I would still have the body I have, and I can't turn my camera off in meetings. So I suggested that if my body made her uncomfortable to the point where she felt she couldn't participate in meetings, that she pin somebody else's video or use the spotlight/speaker feature. I also sent her a link in case she was not familiar with that Zoom feature, as I know it's difficult to figure out Zoom sometimes. I thought that it would be over after this, but she didn't take my message well. On Sunday morning, C accused me of causing her to have a panic attack due to my message, and told me she was offended by my message, and that her message was a professionalism consultation, that she was offended by the way I presented my body, and made multiple other comments about my cleavage and breasts, saying that I was on the verge of a wardrobe malfunction. She then told me that she was a Mexican woman, and in my response, I made her feel like a perpetrator, when her whole life she has been a victim. She then remarked that I was white, and that I was telling her to compromise her own engagement in a meeting because I don't want to make her feel comfortable. She then told me that she was resigning, and it was my fault. I am so confused. What is this woman's problem? Oh my god, man. After this message, I knew that I needed to cool down a bit because things were tense. I took the screenshots, I began to write a report to HR, and I went to the gym. I'm currently competing C25K, and I really need to run off some of this nonsense. While I was at the gym, C's partner U also messaged me on Slack. By the way, this was all happening on the organizational Slack, if that matters. U told me that he stood by their partner's messages 100% and that he totally agrees with her. U told me that C had grown up in a bad area and that I triggered their trauma with what I was wearing and my dismissive response. Her background has made her uncomfortable with white people, and my response to her comments on my breasts was unsurprising. You told me that he was fed up with white leaders in positions of power. Afterwards, I received an email that C had indeed resigned from her positions and cited being dismissed, belittled, and made to feel incapable by white leaders as her reason. This was 2 days after I had even met her, and only after one message I had sent to her. Besides the one message over Slack, we had never interacted. Afterwards, I reached out to the president of the board, K, who was my direct supervisor, and the executive director, S, to let them know that I understood that C had resigned, but I was afraid that the accusations were a misrepresentation of what had actually happened. I also asked for HR to be present in the meeting as a third party. K responded back that it was not a misrepresentation, that I needed to be held accountable for perpetrating racialized harm, and that I would be faced with accountability measures. They also told me that instead of trying to explain what happened, I needed to think about what I did to harm C. They refused to have a meeting with HR present, and instead tried to have a meeting with me alone today, saying that they couldn't coordinate with HR to be present at the meeting. I have reached out to S and HR with a document that had my report of what had transpired, complete with screenshots of C's and U's messages to me, K's email to me, as well as what exactly I was wearing that day that had prompted C's comments about my breasts. I am writing because I am genuinely confused on what should be done here. Am I in the wrong? In sexual harassment training that I took for this job, I was told that unsolicited comments about someone's breasts is considered sexual harassment. I don't believe that I was rude to C when I mentioned to her that I was uncomfortable with her comments, and I'm confused as to why I am not being called racist because I did not want her to discuss my breasts. I would like to know if there was anything I could have done better in this scenario and what my options are. My supervisor has threatened to fire me over this, and I don't want to get fired. I love my job, please help, thanks so much in advance. And now in the comments. 1. Please, God, people just need to pick pseudonyms and not letters. 2. Get a Title VII lawyer to write a letter, including a letter demanding preservation of electronic evidence, the Slack chats. And OP replies, lol, I'm sorry, I didn't know which I should use. I will find one and reach out though. Thank you. If HR comes through for you, you probably can back off. But what concerns me is that you have someone already threatening your job, the board of directors refusing to go through proper HR channels, etc. Non-profits in the Bay are a small community and crap gets around. If this isn't handled right, it could have long-lasting consequences. Likewise, knowing how some of the smaller nonprofits work, it wouldn't be surprising to me if the HR department isn't up on their game and is ineffective at controlling conduct within the organization. Lawyer is the cautious move here. If HR doesn't come through for you, contact the Labor Department. They will ask you questions, and if they deem your situation sexual harassment with retaliation or threats of retaliation by your employer, you might have a case. They will not get you money, but they can prevent your employer from dismissing you until you can find a new job. Also, very important, get a copy of all communication and keep it in a safe place, as well as any performance reviews you have. There is a strong possibility that they will try to fire you, and CYA is always best. Oh, the joys of working with students who don't understand the real world. Getting screenshots was a good idea. Giving a long answer to this inappropriate question probably wasn't the best idea. In the future, if someone talks about your body in a way that you find inappropriate, just say, I don't think this is an appropriate topic. If they persist, repeat yourself. If they still persist, ask them to email their questions to you and CC HR and your manager. As for advice, we need to know more about this board. Most boards operate as a committee, so there isn't a boss per se. Generally, board members can only be removed by a 2/3 majority vote of the board. However, not all boards work like this. That said, while being a board member can be a paid position, it doesn't qualify for all the legal protections of a job. It is a murky area of law. You would want an employment lawyer to help you navigate. A question you have to ask yourself is, do you still want to be on this board? And what outcome would you like? From what you've said above, the only person who turned this into a race issue is the other party. Your initial response seemed appropriate to me. However, for the future, as soon as someone touches on an issue that has anything close to controversy or liability with it, you should immediately escalate it to the person above you in the chain of command. That way, they know what's going on from the beginning and can take over the conversation or involve HR. Involving HR in the instance should probably have happened as soon as the other party brought up race at all. For today, I could suggest saving all communication in writing moving forward and insisting on having HR present at any conversation with your boss. Let them know that you dispute the version of events being presented, and even that you may be able to claim reverse discrimination if you are fired. A person doesn't get to claim your existence insults them just for existing as a certain race. Alright, and now on to the update. Since that Monday morning, I had received messages from both co-worker U and his partner C trying to pressure me into having an unmediated conversation. I didn't respond to these messages and instead forwarded them to the executive director. I have not received a response back from HR this entire time. On Tuesday, the president of the org / my direct supervisor suddenly resigned. They said that this was a decision that they had been considering for quite a while, and they needed to step down. I won't speculate here, but I just think the coincidence is a bit funny. It turns out that word had spread around the events that occurred. On Wednesday, I decided to go axe throwing with my boyfriend to blow off steam. A great activity, by the way. And after, I had dinner with him, his mum, and his brother. I was supposed to go to an organizing meeting at 8 p.m, but I decided not to go because I wanted to spend more time with him and his family. Somebody at this meeting said something that alluded to the situation unfolding between me, my coworker, and his partner. He texted them, "F you, puta," and "I don't want to see your face around place ever again," and then he resigned as well. On Thursday, I received a very long email from you that was further filled with vitriol and more complaints about my breasts. You also sent the screenshots of all the conversations between us. Afterwards, the cat was out of the bag, and the other employees who were copied on that email for some reason responded that they didn't see how my response to C was racist, and in fact, it was C that was acting inappropriately. This kind of affirmed what I had been saying to the ED about the situation, and I did receive more support. However, C and U refused to admit that what they had been saying wasn't okay, and just continued to send awful messages. I am sad that 2 of my coworkers had to resign as a result of this situation. I did not think it was that serious, to be honest. But from my friends who I've asked for advice, they both screwed up egregiously. Either way, now we are halfway out of one shitty situation and halfway into another, because now we are at 3 out of 5 people in the middle of budgeting for the next year. My coworkers are stressed and so am I. I don't think they placed the blame on me for what happened, but I feel guilty anyways. I sent an email to C that elaborated on how the original message was inappropriate. I had to say that because I was queer, Jewish, and also Mexican, that her original message to me would have been anti all those things, if my message to her was racist. She seemed to back off, saying that they have forgiven me and that they want to focus on their partner. She apologized in that message, but it wasn't an actual apology. That was fine with me. I just wanted the situation to stop. Thanks to everyone that offered support. I wish I could say this has a happy ending, but it really doesn't, because nobody feels good about what went down. I'm counting down the days until my term ends. Have a happy Monday, y'all. I read this whole thing thinking, what planet are these people on? None of this makes sense. And then I scrolled back up and finally noticed the word non-profit, and suddenly all the pieces fit. Non-profit boards are infested with equal parts ineffectual doormats and dangerous lunatics. Frankly, this entire sequence of events resolved in a surprisingly sane way for non-profit board drama, considering OP never got fired for a batshit crazy reason. Yeah, I think the only reason OP avoided the firing was that they never engaged in those unmediated meetings, and there was at least one level higher that was involved in the conversation. And then it's only because there were actual people in either HR or the executive level. What a shitty work environment. The bosses could have gotten rid of the two assholes and kept the two people that resigned if they had just acted after the issue came to light. C and U are absolutely unhinged, and honestly, OP could have gone to the police about harassment, and possibly should have. How awful. I read the title and thought, oh hey, I've had this happen to me before. I have not had this happen to me before. Yeah, same here. Creeps are gonna be creeps, and occasionally, piece of crap creeps will use their race to try to get away with their creepiness because they are creeps. But this went off in a completely different direction. By the end of it, I was wondering if you had some sexuality hang-ups. What the hell, lady? I had two co-workers, Clara, 23, and John, 35-ish. John is an immigrant from somewhere in Southern Asia. He had worked in the lab at our company for 10 plus years, and was known to be a funny, silly guy who was good at his job. Clara was brand new to the company, working in a male-dominated field and trying to establish workplace friendships just like dudes around us did. Many of them meet up for golf on the weekends or happy hour after work. Clara started being friends with John, and at first he was just nice, but she started noticing things crossing a line. He would tell her about his marital issues. He would start waiting for her at her desk with a donut and coffee in the morning, asking if she wanted to get a coffee after work that night. Stuff that sounded kind of like a date, but could also just be friendly. She finally drew the line when he started giving her gifts of art that he made. She went to adjust the painting in the frame and saw there was like a prayer type thing written on the back side of it, which wasn't really understandable, but made it 10,000% clear he was fully in love with her. With that knowledge that she wasn't just being full of herself, she finally felt okay to say that it was going a bit too far and making her uncomfortable. She sent him a very kind email basically saying, John, being your friend has been a real blessing, but I do think it would be best for both of our careers if we made our relationship a little more professional and less close. John lost it. He sent back a nasty email telling her that it was all in her head and he never wanted to see her again because she was racist anyway. HR gave him a warning because that day, he tried to follow her out to her car when she decided to leave early. She didn't even report that one. The front of the building is all glass, so anyone looking out the window could have seen it. So the next day, he showed up at 8 AM in a shirt that he had ironed on some weird message like, #1 professional, work relationships only. By this point, basically the entire building knew his shirt was a direct dig at Clara, who was just trying to hide at her desk. He got fired, but basically everyone heard him shouting in the HR meeting, saying if he was white, they wouldn't have fired him. I don't think he ever realized that his creepiness had nothing to do with not being white, but because he was creeping hard on a girl 10 plus years younger than him when his wife had just had his third child. I feel dirty after reading that. I feel real dirty. How do you guys survive working in office environments? For God's sake, I would lose my mind just dealing with something like that. I don't even want to imagine it. My fiancé of 4 years randomly claimed I abused her and called the police. This came completely out of the blue. I honestly don't know what happened. A couple of days ago, my girlfriend who I lived with left our apartment while I was at work, claimed to her family and mutual friends that I had been physically abusing her, and blocked me on everything. I have no idea what's going on. There weren't any major problems in our relationship that I could see, and we just had consensual sex last night. The very last time I spoke to her before all of this happened, she was perfectly fine, kissed me goodbye before I went to work, and everything was normal. Then I got a call from my dad toward the end of the day, asking me calmly if I'd been hitting my girlfriend. I didn't know what he was talking about, and then she told me. I rushed home, and she had gotten all of her stuff and is staying either with her family or a friend of hers. My Facebook account is blowing up, and I have no idea what to do. None of what is being said is true, and I don't know if someone is just playing a cruel joke on me. A few people even mentioned that the police were called, but I haven't heard anything as of yet. The last major argument we had was probably in February, around Valentine's Day. We were going through some financial trouble, and the stress got to us, and we were both getting upset with each other over petty household things. She was my best friend, the person I could rely on to be there for me, and the person that I would be there for always, no matter what. We were definitely planning on getting married. It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. Her family had basically accepted me into the family. I was close with both her mum and her dad. I only called them both once each. Neither of them answered my calls. I called my, ex? Just twice. No answer. She blocked me on every social media platform of hers that I know of. I asked a couple of friends, but they are being distant with me. Just one-word answers or ghosting me. What the hell is happening here? We'd always been upfront and honest with each other, and our communication was stellar. TLDR, I guess my girlfriend decided she wasn't happy in the relationship or something, and instead of breaking up with me, she left behind my back completely out of the blue and claimed to everyone that I've been physically abusing her. I have no idea what's going on. Now in the comments, this feels a lot like a writing prompt. OP, are you willing to answer some questions? I don't want to offend you, but the reality is, this sub is subjected to writing prompts with a worldview that this story would enforce, as well as the female version of this. I'm not saying this is definitely that, however, this is devoid of information to a point it could easily be that. I'm not some white knighter, but I hate propaganda, and this very well could be that. The questions I would have are, what was your reaction to this? How was your family and your friends' reaction to this? As in, how did the conversation with your father go? Did he believe you? What about your best male friend? Do you or your girlfriend have a history of mental illness? What are your theories on why this is happening, and what culture would you self-identify you and your girlfriend as? And OP replies, quote, what was your reaction to this? Confusion, and then panic. My heart started pounding. At first, it was difficult to think. I wanted to try to call her to see what the hell was going on, when I found out she blocked me on everything. I've been walking around with a huge pit in my stomach. Quote, what was your family and friends' reaction to this? How did the conversation with father go? Did he believe you? And what about best male friend? OP says, my dad calmly asked me if I'd been hitting her. I outright denied it, and he said, are you sure? That made me upset. Only a couple of friends reached out. Most are sort of staying out of it. I had 2 friends say, what the fuck were you thinking, before I tried to explain it to them. Over the past few hours, they seemed to warm up, but I don't know. Other friends haven't really been saying anything, just distant or not responding much at all. I don't really have a best friend, but the one person I would closest describe as such seems to believe me. Just said, this is really screwed up. Do you or your girlfriend have a history of mental illness? OP says, I don't. As for her, not that I know of. I'm close with her family, and I know a lot about her childhood. Serious mental illnesses sound like a big thing to cover up. What are your theories on why this is happening? OP says, 1. This is a cruel joke. 2. She just wanted to break up without having a conversation, which would have been fine. No way I could have forced her to have a convo about it. Or 3. Someone convinced her that this was a good way to cover up other things that she wanted to do, like steal credit cards. This was suggested by other Redditors. I don't really believe this. What culture would you self-identify you and your girlfriend as? We are both culturally American. Her family is Hispanic, but have been in the USA for 3 generations now. It's possible she cheated and did this to control the narrative, to make you look bad. I hate to suggest it, but it's a possibility. It happened to me. This girl is either really naive, I refuse to believe this was a genuine prank that she didn't think would have real fucking consequences for all aspects of your life, to think this prank would work, or she did it deliberately without a care of how this would affect you, knowing it's not true. Either way, do not tie yourself down to this woman. Do not try to contact her to talk and get to the bottom of this. She can spin that a bunch of different ways, all to make you look bad. If she unblocks you to contact you, you block her. Any chance she's been affected by carbon monoxide or something like schizophrenia? OP responds, probably not. I'd be messed up too. I don't know how schizophrenia works, but it seems like there would be some sign of it, of fine one second, go scorched earth on the entire life you built the next. I'm schizophrenic and I would never do this to anyone. I could not pull it off if I wanted to. She is avoidant and immature, and is victim playing to get attention and sympathy. This is a smear campaign, and it is not good for the OP to start diagnosing her with mental illness that would support her abuse lie. And now on to the update. Okay, so this is going to be a weird-ass update. I'm sorry if you guys thought this was going to be anything interesting. A friend came forward and told me that apparently my dumbass fiancé decided to play a prank on me. She had the bright idea of leaving the house for a couple of days to set up a surprise birthday party for me set for this weekend. I don't know what the fuck she was thinking, nor do I even really know the full story yet. She is not really the prank-playing type, and I guess thought this would be hilarious or something. It looks like a majority of those friends who were acting distant were in on it. After I started being upfront and honest with showing people my texts with her as this sub suggested, one of them told her that this wasn't cool and that if she didn't come clean, then he would. Well, she didn't come clean and he came forward. I guess that's why nobody was answering their texts. Anyway, I texted her and I told her that I knew, asked her what the fuck she was thinking. She started blowing up my phone apologizing. She said her prank just went too far and spiraled out of control when it got to social media, and that she didn't know how to come clean when she realized that it crossed a line. She also said that she didn't mean to let it come out that I was abusing her, and that she just wanted to make it seem like she left me, and that the abuse stuff was a rumor started by some other people who weren't in on her joke. I just didn't really respond to her. I left and went to my parents' house before she got back home. My family now thinks she's a fucking moron, so her relationship with them is ruined right before our marriage, so that's great. Our mutual friends are now split in half, with half of them thinking she's an idiot, and the other half feeling God knows what about the situation. I'm frankly embarrassed and feel stupid for wasting everyone's time and dragging them into my relationship with my fiancé. I don't really know where to go from here. I don't know if I should call off the wedding or postpone it and try to work out what the hell went through her mind. I'm sorry if this isn't the ending to the story that you were all hoping for. I'm having drinks and will be here all night feeling sorry for myself and answering comments for as long as I'm awake with this Jameson. Man, why the hell can't people just have normal birthdays? And OP replies, I actually laughed. One of my first thoughts on what to say to her before I actually spoke to her was, you know, just not telling me about the party would have been sufficient. Look, OP, I know what you should do and what you want to do are warring one another, but you have to take a second and do what we Libra are great at. Step outside yourself and look at the overall picture here. In her efforts to be funny, she convinced people that she was leaving you because of abuse. That isn't just a prank. That's the kind of thing that people go to jail and lose jobs over. There is nothing funny about it. If you wish to pursue a relationship with this woman, do so with the full knowledge of how far she takes jokes. So imagine how far she'll take something serious. Regardless of how much you love her, she has created turmoil that may end up costing you more than just your relationship. I'm sorry, won't fix it, won't make it better, won't make people forget, won't save your relationship with friends. Know that if you go through with the wedding after this, everyone is going to be wondering what next stunt she's willing to pull off, and that's if she confessed to all of them. For all you know, the only person that knows it was a prank are the friends that are in on it and you. That leaves a lot of people that still think you're an abusive prick that, at your wedding, will think she's marrying an abusive prick. Because plenty of people still marry their abusers. So, talk about awkward. The only way she can make it up is to come out publicly, social media included, to tell everyone it was a prank, and even then, you are likely to have someone that assumes that you are making her. I don't legitimately see any way this relationship can be salvaged that doesn't hurt you in the long run. And OP replies, I'm slightly happy to report that I reached out to a lot of friends, that most of the people are on my side here. I think the very worst of it are people telling me to let it go, but nobody believes I was abusing her. One of the girls in my group chat said she immediately didn't believe it the second she saw it. In my opinion, that's easy to say coming from someone who kept quiet until after it came out that it was a prank, But at the very least, I don't know of anyone who thinks I'm an actual abuser. I made sure to try to spread the word a bit to those that it reached outside of our mutual friend circle. This is a big yikes for me. Your girlfriend is an idiot and everyone knows it. First off, have you found out how her family is dealing with it? You said they didn't answer your calls in the previous post. Do they also think she's an idiot? And what the hell is up with her texts saying that she didn't think it would get out that you abused her? Ugh, newsflash, you don't abuse her. I think that the text was to justify what she did and to cover her ass. This experience will still help you find out who your real friends are. The ones who still don't know what to think aren't your real friends. Like, come on, she's 28 years old, not 15. She should know the consequences of her actions at this point. If you can, at least postpone the wedding. But in my opinion, pulling a stunt like this is a deal breaker. What she did made you look like a horrible person in the eyes of her friends and family. Let her face the repercussions of her actions. And OP replies, I haven't spoken to them at all. I'm actually going to call her dad today and see what's up. He's always been really cool to me, and I'm honestly really close with him. And to clarify, this was meant to be contained in a small group of people, but then one of her idiot friends put it on social media. That is what she meant by that. Don't tell me you're still gonna marry her. What the hell? And OP replies, at the very least, the wedding is postponed indefinitely. It's really not an easy decision to make after 4 years. I'm so sorry, man, but could you imagine what she thinks would be a great surprise party for her kids? Oh, we got a divorce a week before your birthday. Haha, just kidding. She would emotionally destroy her children with this type of behavior. And now on to the final update. So firstly, thanks for all of your input. I read and considered every single reply. First I'll update you, then I'll tie up some loose ends from the comments in the previous post. I want to apologize for the bluntness of this post ahead of time, because despite your comments about me being calm and level-headed, I'm actually quite upset about the entire situation, and I feel like me sitting and thinking about it is only marinating this anger and making it more juicy and flavorful. I spoke to her in person after I posted my update. From her perspective, her original idea was to make it look like she just got mad or something, grabbed a few things, and left to her friend's house, where she was going to have the party thrown. Her friend has a really nice house that's perfect for a 20 to 30 person get-together. She was with her 2 friends, and made an off-the-cuff remark when her friend said, "What are you gonna say when he asks why?" And she said, "I don't know, I'll probably tell him that I feel like he got too serious when we had sex," or something like that. Then her other friend who was with her immediately took it to social media without the other 2 girls knowing, and then when they checked their phones later on that day, it was already a dumpster fire. I said, great, all that is understandable. Just one question. Why did you then block me and refuse to answer my calls? Because that seemed pretty fucking intentional to me. She said because she didn't want to throw her idiot friend under the bus and thought it would all go away if she just threw the party, and she hadn't realized how far it all went so quickly. I thanked her for telling me, and then I called off the wedding entirely. She cried, I cried, it was a goddamn mess. She asked where we go from here. I told her I don't know. I don't even know if the relationship is over yet, but I know that the engagement is over, and that if I decide to give it another chance, at the bare minimum, we need to build my trust for her from the ground up, if not the entire relationship. And now I have to decide if I want that. Do I want to spend another 4 years being undecided? If I'm being honest with myself, I imagine it taking another couple of years before I can trust her again. Do I want to get married and start thinking about having children at 35, 36, close to 40? I told her that I have a lot to think about. I spoke to her dad last night, and we shared a case of beers and had a conversation that lasted about 5 hours. My ex, ? Hasn't spoken to anyone, and has basically been locked up in her old bedroom for now. She's been crying a lot. I do believe that she is genuinely remorseful about all of this, which complicates things. Her dad caught wind of the situation on Facebook, but learned what was really going on maybe like an hour later. He had gotten my calls, but hadn't returned them because he called his daughter first. She told him, and he just didn't know what to say to her. He told her that she's not truly stupid, but that she has a history of sometimes not thinking about things before she says them, and the impact that her offhand remarks can have. He said this is the worst it's ever snowballed, but she's had situations in the past where she says something stupid or insulting and doesn't realize the impact of what she says until hours later when the other person blows up over it. So that's it. I still have a lot to think about. I know a lot of you guys are telling me that I have no balls for not literally tossing her out into traffic and laughing about it or something weird like that. But you have to understand that I still love her and have loved her for a few years now. Right now, I'm leaning toward moving on, but you're going to have to empathize with me here. As for my reputation, nobody thinks I'm an abuser. It's firmly out there now. Her reputation took a much more significant and lasting hit. I haven't lost any friends except for the idiot social media girl whose reputation also took a severe hit. Nobody called the cops, all the other posts about it have been deleted, and everything is good. There is no real need for me to get a lawyer and sue anybody. My family agrees with a lot of you. They are 2 seconds away from slapping me upside the head for not immediately kicking her to the curb. Just give me some time. I'm not going to make another update post because I've already wasted too much of your time with this bullcrap. But maybe I'll just update this post a few days after I've decided what to do. So, she was more worried about the reputation of her friend than of the reputation of the man she wanted to marry and spend the rest of her life with? I'm sorry, but if that alone doesn't speak volumes about this girl, then I don't know what to tell you. I wish you good luck in the future, but if it was me, I would move on. This is not what I would want from a life partner. I think this is the most important result. In my eyes, she should have jumped all over her friend, made her apologize, and move on. The person she's going to marry should stack way above a random idiot friend. Bail, OP. This will happen again. Crap, according to her own father, this wasn't the first time. Paraphrasing what I've read, these episodes have only gotten progressively worse. OP can move on. OP's former ? Significant other will need to get some therapy. There are some underlying issues going on in that noggin. She's not truly stupid, but is a ringing endorsement if I've ever heard one. Yeah, her dad seems like a cool guy, but 28 is way too late to be learning that her actions have consequences. I don't think she actually values her friend over OP. I think she panicked, and protecting someone else sounds a lot better than I ran away. The reality is, though, that people learn a lot of very important lessons late in life, whether that's how to communicate without getting angry, how to be less arrogant, or yes, how to face difficult problems and take responsibility. Everyone matures with time. OP has zero obligation to stay with someone who feels he isn't mature enough to marry, or someone who doesn't share his values. But when it comes to the issues of maturity, people who want to change can, as long as they recognize what they need to fix and have the support necessary to take the harder path, where before, they would have taken the easy way out. I have no idea what OP should do, but it doesn't sound like his fiancée is a bad person. It sounds like she just has some growing up to do. Why do people do stupid things like this when prepping for a surprise party? When my brother's ex-wife threw him one, I took him golfing to get him out of the house. When my friend's wife asked me to distract my friend and take him to her parents at a certain time, I took him out for a few birthday beers. You don't have to make people angry or sad in order for a surprise to work. Sometimes doing something nice can be the lead-up to another nice thing. Exactly. My dad threw my mum a surprise birthday party once. It was her first birthday that we were celebrating after we moved to a new state for his job. Mum had been really depressed and missed living closer to her sister. He got my aunt to come over and keep her busy for the day, and then bring her home. It was a surprise for us too, as my dad literally told us the day of he was throwing Mummy a surprise party. Apparently he didn't trust us to keep it a secret. Can't say he was wrong. Should I give my boyfriend another chance after he didn't stand up for me? This happened a couple of weeks ago. My, female 22, boyfriend, male 26 of 7 months, invited me to go out on a boat with him and his friends. Typically, this would be an immediate no. I am terrified of the ocean, specifically the open ocean. I can do ankle-deep beach water, but not boats. However, the boat was being rented by my boyfriend's childhood best friend, Peter, who I had never gotten to meet. Peter moved across country before the boyfriend and I started dating, and he was back in town. My boyfriend was adamant that I go so he can introduce his two favorite people. I felt like I really couldn't say no to that, so I agreed, but told him there was no way I was getting in any water and reminded him that this is a genuine fear for me. He promised I could stay in the boat, no problem. When we got to the dock, his friends were already sat on what I would guess was a 20-foot boat. Nice size, but not big enough for my safety concerns. Still, I took a deep breath and got in. I was trying to look calm, but guess I was visibly anxious because the first thing Peter asked me was if I was nervous. I said yes, just a little, and my boyfriend chimed in and said she's scared of water, which kind of got on my nerves since I spent about 30 minutes explaining to him how it was more than that, but whatever. Peter didn't really say anything in response, but I thought I caught a taunting look in his eye. I told myself I was just paranoid because of my heightened anxiety and just took my seat. I kept my eyes closed as we pulled away from the dock and tried to keep my breathing steady. I did not want to have a panic attack in front of my boyfriend's friends. Once we were to our spot and anchored, I relaxed into the situation a little more. The water was calm and we were just chatting, drinking, and overall having a good time. After about 30 minutes, Peter stood up, took off his shirt, looked directly at me, and announced it was time to go swimming. My blood immediately turned cold. I tried to laugh, and I told him I was just going to stay in the boat because the ocean isn't really my thing. Peter got that weird look in his eye again, and it gave me a really uneasy feeling. The next thing I know, he had grabbed me and threw me into the air before I could even react. I let out a blood-curdling scream as I hit the water. It all happened so fast. I know how to swim, but I felt like my body was shutting down. I just kept kicking and screaming and reaching for the boat. I felt like I was in the water for hours, but it was probably a minute before my boyfriend reached down and pulled me back into the boat. I immediately collapsed to the floor and started gagging. I was also crying a lot. I felt so embarrassed, but I just couldn't stop. I looked around for my boyfriend, and he was just sitting there looking at me. I wanted to ask him why he wasn't doing anything, but I couldn't get my words. I was just hyperventilating and crying. And he says, "Geez, it's not that big of a deal. You were in the water for a second," Peter said. I again looked at my boyfriend, and all he said was, "I told you she was scared," and shrugged. "Take me back," I finally demanded. Peter resisted at first, but after a few more gags, he agreed. When we got back to the dock, I was the first one off the boat. I said nothing before speeding off to the parking lot. I jumped in the car and just wrapped myself in a towel and cried. About 15 minutes later, my boyfriend strolled up and got in the car. He asked me if I was seriously still crying. I didn't respond. "I pulled you out. What more did you want me to do?" he asked me. I told him that he should have stood up to Peter more and comforted me while I was sat throwing up water and crying. He said I overreacted and ruined the day. I told him to take me home. I didn't want to be near him. When he dropped me off, I told him we were done, and he's been blowing up my phone ever since. When I answered, he didn't once apologize and again told me I was overreacting. I told him I no longer felt safe with him, and I hung up. My parents and sister told me I did the right thing, but I have a couple of friends who have told me that breaking up with him was an extreme reaction, especially since he wasn't the one who actually threw me in the water. I realize I may have been too hasty in my decision, but I really don't know if I can trust him anymore. Should I try to give him another chance? Now in the comments, he just showed you how much your feelings mean to him and that he can't be trusted. He allowed his friends to exploit your fear and then just shrugged it off. The most worrying part is how he's shifting the blame to you and refuses to even apologize after you leave him. This is not a man you should be with at all. He is not safe for you in any sense of the word. And OP replies, "Exactly. Really, if he had no idea Peter was going to do that, I understand he couldn't have done anything to prevent it, but the fact he hasn't apologized and is even mad at me for embarrassing and breaking up with him, I just can't understand. Because he cares more about his friends and looking good in front of them. Your fear was their entertainment. These are not empathetic individuals. They don't care about you. This was about intimidation and violence and denying your humanity. This was a test to see whether you would stand up for yourself or whether they could hurt you in other ways. Please don't give them another opportunity to prove what absolute garbage human beings they are. Absolutely not. I can't believe he really didn't do anything about that. OP says, honestly, I couldn't either. He's usually very caring and attentive, so it was definitely out of the norm for him. If you would have asked me before what I thought he would do in a situation like this, I would have said that he would have thrown Peter in the water in retaliation. The whole thing just made me see him in a different light, and I didn't like it. Honestly, people rescue complete strangers who appear to be drowning in water. The fact that they threw you overboard and did absolutely nothing is horrifying. They seem completely devoid of empathy and humanity. They only pulled you back in for selfish reasons. Anyone who deliberately puts someone in harm's way deserves to be alone. I'm glad you made it out in one piece and that you weren't severely injured. Get as far away from them as you can. And OP says, thank you. I actually said the same thing to my ex on the way home while we were arguing. I told him he did nothing a complete stranger and lifeguard wouldn't do, and was definitely not acting like a concerned boyfriend. He told me that I was being crazy, and he should be the one upset that I had embarrassed him in front of Peter and his other friends. That was really the moment I knew that I was breaking up with him. I was just so shocked he didn't care at all. You made the right decision. Block him everywhere and move on. This shit's traumatizing. And now, onto the update. Wow, I did not expect the response I got from my original post. My post got frozen and I wasn't able to respond to many questions or give an update, so I just wanted to hop back on and let everyone who's interested know what happened after the post. Let's start with some common questions. 1. Is this story fake? No, it's not, but I wish it was. 2. Did my boyfriend know Peter was going to do that ahead of time? I don't think so, and that hadn't even crossed my mind until reading some of your comments. 3. Why did I even go on the boat in the first place if I was so scared? I went because my boyfriend made it clear it was important to him. I did suggest meeting up with him for lunch or dinner instead, and he could have a boys' day on the boat without me, but he didn't like that plan. I gave in because I wanted to be a good girlfriend and get along with his best friend. I know a lot of you were suggesting to block him on everything and immediately go no contact, but that just wasn't something I was comfortable with. I messaged him and asked him if we could meet up to exchange our things and have a conversation about what happened. He agreed, and we met in a public park yesterday. When he walked up, he looked super sad and actually had tears in his eyes when he handed me a box of my things. I was actually shocked to see him so upset, since he's been digging his heels in the last couple of weeks, telling me this was all my fault. I had prepped myself for a fight, but that's not what I got. I handed him a box of his things too, and when he started to go through it, he started to full-on cry. At this point, I was also getting emotional because I really hate to hurt anyone else's feelings, and I didn't like seeing him so upset. But I tried to remember how much he had hurt me with this situation to keep strong. I asked him to take a seat with me at one of the picnic tables to talk, and he agreed. I asked him why he was now showing these emotions after 3 weeks, and he told me he didn't think I'd really follow through with the breakup, and it just became real to him when he was packing up my things. I asked him what about the way he had acted would make me want to continue dating him, and he immediately apologized for how he handled the whole thing, and told me he wished he could take it all back. He said he had no idea Peter was going to do that to me, but he also didn't think it was that big of a deal in the moment. He said he didn't rush to comfort me or confront Peter because he didn't want to cause more of a scene and embarrass me even more than I already was. I told him it was embarrassing to have a boyfriend not even care that I was panicking right in front of him. He said he gets that he should have been more comforting. I told him what really hurt the most was how much he's been blaming me and telling me I was the one who ruined the day when Peter was the one who crossed my clear boundary. He said that he talked to Peter and told him that he was in the wrong and he should never do anything like that again if he wants to keep my boyfriend as a friend. He apologized again for the situation, and I told him I appreciate the apology and forgive him. He asked if we could get back together, which I did consider honestly, but at the end of the day, that trust has been broken, and I don't think it can be rebuilt. I told him that, and said he needs to make sure he respects his next girlfriend's boundaries more than he respected mine. He cried some more, but told me he understood, and asked if we can still be friends. I told him I would still need some more time, but maybe some months down the road we could try and be friends. We hugged, and then left separately, and that was that. I'm also going to be talking with my friends, who minimized my reaction to see if there is anything worth saving there, but one step at a time. Thank you all again for the advice and kind words. I can't thank you enough. You all made me feel strong, and I really needed that. And now in the comments, Homeboy really had no shame in admitting to you that he had zero concern for your emotions, just as long as he didn't have to face any consequences. But the second he didn't feel so great, all of a sudden he regrets it? You were right to turn him down. I would think very seriously about whether you wanted a person like this as a friend. Seriously, like, why did I gaslight you, belittle your needs, and defend my friend for assaulting you? Well, because I thought I was going to get away with it. Zero remorse. I think you made the right call. He wasn't sorry when it happened. He wasn't sorry through 3 weeks of arguing and blaming you. He wasn't sorry until there were actual consequences for him. He even told you himself. He kept arguing because he didn't take you seriously. A relationship isn't sustainable when the only thing that gets your partner to respect your feelings is breaking up. Not to mention, respecting your feeling would need to be more than just apologizing. I think he'd have needed to talk to Peter and draw a boundary there to undo the damage he did by invalidating your feelings in front of Peter. Otherwise, in the long term, Peter would have continued to treat you badly because your boyfriend set a precedent that that's okay. And based on his behavior, I don't think he'd ever have done it. Yup, he didn't care about OP's feelings at all. He cares only about his own. The OP dumping him for his bad behavior makes him feel bad about himself. He still doesn't care how his actions made the OP feel. Just block him now. He is not going to be a good friend, you know that already. I think you also need to dump those friends, too, since they are going to be making excuses and downplaying the entire seriousness of what happened, just like your ex did, while not bothering to realize that they all had the one chance to show empathy and sympathy to you, a person that nearly drowned in the ocean. I think you should also reconsider ever being friends with your ex in the future, especially if Pete is still in his life months later, as that shows that he is more forgiving and tolerant of Pete's actions than of you dumping him of beyond justified grounds. The more I think about it, the more it makes me angry. Aside from preying on her fears and risking her safety, he had no idea if she could even swim. This guy barely met someone, and literally his first interaction with her was to put his hands on her against her will and physically assault her. Who would want to be friends with that? Yeah, like, what sort of asshole throws someone they just met in the water? Even if she weren't afraid of it, that's just an incredibly crap move to do to someone you just met. Right? What a fucking idiotic way of making a first impression. If he's like this with people he doesn't know, I can't imagine how much of a douchebag he is towards his friends. Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole if I cancel Christmas because I can't afford it this year?" Title says it all. Sole provider for family, all credit cards maxed, negative bank balance, upcoming missed payments until my next paycheck, basically destitute for the foreseeable future. My wife and I usually decorate on Black Friday, but this year I don't want to. The thought of putting up our fake tree, knowing that I'll have nothing to put under it, fills me with such a mix of shame, anger, and pain. I would prefer to just let December pass and cut out as many things as I can until I get my finances under control. Plus, my daughter is 2. She won't even know, care, or even remember one missed Christmas. So, am I the asshole? I'm already a failure as a husband and a father, so what would you say here? And now in the comments, info. Have you talked to your wife about this? Christmas isn't about presents. It's a time you should spend with your family. Find the joy in that. And OP says, yes, my wife was the one to call me today to inform me that we were officially broke. I mentioned cancelling Christmas to save money, and she initially agreed, only to sit and cry through dinner, making me feel worse. I think no assholes here. For years after my mum died, I just couldn't pick myself up to decorate or have a tree. Sometimes life kicks you and reminds you, frequently. I have a friend, and our gift to each other every year is the gift of no gifts. No stressing or shopping, just a small slice of peace with one less person to shop for. I would offer that to your wife. Write her a note with all the ways she makes your day better, and see if one of those Secret Santa subs can get your daughter a gift or two. It's okay to feel down. It will get better. Put up what you have, and make a good memory with your family. Then when you think about this year, you'll have that as your go-to memory. You're the asshole. But not for any reasons I've seen here. You are incredibly empathetic and seem very logical and reasonable about your situation, except for one key thing. You need to move. By the sounds of it, you live in DC or some other crazy high cost of living area and you can't keep up and it's not your fault. Unless you have a salary that supports living in a high cost of living area, you don't stay. This isn't ever going to solve itself even if she starts working. You are still maxed out and the kids won't miraculously get significantly cheaper. My guess is things were comfortable, yet tight, when she was bringing in that additional $20,000 each year. Now it's been 3 years on your salary, probably about $70,000, and you are learning that you have overextended, due in part to unplanned occurrences that you aren't entirely to blame for. Everyone throwing barbs out about you having kids are mostly a bunch of 18-year-olds who have never worked a day in their life or thought of someone other than themselves ever. Don't listen to them. Look at yourself though, and stop throwing blame anywhere. It is not your fault, it is not your health insurance deductible's fault, it is not your incoming son's fault. Instead, focus on what you can control, mainly location and cost of living. It's not going to be easy. You'll probably need to deliver pizzas at night, which is $1,500 easy a month, and you'll be able to have a nice little $4,000 moving budget by spring. It's not going to be comfortable, and it'll suck not being there for your wife and son, but the alternative is a lifetime of this manic pain. And OP replies, "This is creepy accurate. My salary is the reason I can't accept anyone's gifts. I shouldn't be broke, and I certainly shouldn't need handouts at my level. But ever since my wife stopped bringing in her pay, the debt has just crept, and now I'm actually broke. My salary and DJ gigs cover our bills, and we have nothing left over each month. I'm not food insecure or on the verge of defaulting on my mortgage. I just didn't manage my money well and tried to keep up with everyone around me in my admittedly very relatively wealthy suburb of a major metropolitan city. This is entirely my fault, and therefore it is my responsibility to fix it. I took the first step and moved into a smaller, cheaper home in a lower cost area a bit further from my job. The next hurdle is going to be tackling the credit card debt. I've spoken to a financial planner, and we're going to meet soon to discuss strategy. I'm still getting blasted with offers of help, which is such a beautiful thing, but I've gotten the real help I needed. Perspective. No assholes here. There is nothing wrong with scaling back your holiday because of financial problems. Put your daughter's name on a list at a social agency for a gift, the Angel Tree or something similar. Keep an eye out and ear out for various charities that give away turkeys and other ingredients for a holiday meal. Financial problems happen, and there is nothing to be ashamed of, but don't completely cancel everything. It is just not necessary. This year, concentrate on spending time together as a family instead of on gifts and buying things. Put the tree up, listen to music if you like it, and enjoy your daughter and her sense of excitement that comes from colored lights. And now back up to the post. This has spun out of control. I never thought my sad man pity party would get this kind of response. I was expecting to be called an asshole, validate my self-loathing, and claw my way out of debt by working harder. I did not expect the absolute torrent of love and support that I in no way deserve or can accept. Info. And I am so sorry for not making this crystal clear in the original post. Our mortgage and utilities are paid. There is food in our fridge, and my next paycheck or paychecks is secure, even though it too will all go to bills with none left over for gifts. I pretended not to notice that we weren't keeping up our pre-child lifestyle without credit cards, and I got in over my head and now have to dig myself out of a relatively deep hole, meaning I won't have any money for gifts and meals out and holiday gatherings and whatnot for a good bit of time to come. But I have a great job and an outstanding family support system who all live close by and know what debt feels like and will understand if we can't chip in this year with anything but our presence. But it just felt shameful to have the advantages I have and still manage to F it up as bad as I did without asking for help. As for all the people begging me to accept help, here is why I can't. I make a good salary, there is no chance of me or my family going hungry. We have food, and will have money for food budgeted into my paychecks, which are secure as my job is secure. I have an extremely well-funded 401k from 18 years of office work and life insurance to safeguard my family. Thank you all who were offering food. Thank you all who offered to buy my 2-year-old's Amazon wishlist. She is 2 and does not have one. My wife and I already decided that she has too many toys, and so we had only things like books and a learning tablet in mind for her. She'll be okay if we can't buy her stuff. She already has stuff. Her close-in-age cousins live on our street, and we exchange toys and clothes all the time, and both our houses are cluttered with stuff. This was not about garnering pity or soliciting charity. It was my insecurity equating gifts with love that warped Christmas for me. It almost ruined Christmas for me. Regardless of the vote here, I truly am the asshole for that. So please turn your charity to your communities, your neighbors, not some middle-class jagoff who spent himself into debt trying to prove how much he loved a family that only needed him to be a happy and healthy presence at home. You all have humbled me beyond words, beyond charity. You have given me both the perspective and the courage to seek professional help, both financial and psychological. And hopefully it's not too late for this stupid old man to become a better father and husband. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. His spirit is truly embodied in all of you beautiful and selfless Redditors. Never lose the light, love and cheer to all. But as you can see, I deserve neither of your charity nor your goodness, and I am going to go disappear back into anonymity now if possible and work on me. Update for those concerned, I have not ever, even for a second, considered hurting myself. Not once. I'm showing my age here, but Goonies never say die. Update for info, and I hope this answers all the questions people had, as there were many, and so I'm just going to write a bio that answers them all. I live in the mid-Atlantic United States. When we got pregnant, after 6 years of trying and failing and treatments and tears, we found out that it would cost us $50 a month for my wife to work her current job and put our daughter in full-time daycare, as daycare costs upwards of $1,600 a month for even local co-ops, to say nothing of the $2,100 plus that most daycare companies were asking. The solution was for her to retire and take up the even harder job of full-time mother. I work 8 to 5 at a day job, and I pick up shifts DJing at a local bar at night and DJ private events and weddings, etc. when I can book them. My daughter was about to turn 2 and be able to start 3-day-a-week preschool for far less than the cost of a 5-day-a-week daycare, meaning my wife could start work again, at least part-time. I was in the referral process to find a surgeon to do my vasectomy when we found out that despite using birth control, my wife was pregnant again. We are due in February, a little boy this time. Utter shock, disbelief, some truly unhealthy thoughts, and finally acceptance that I was going to have to continue to be the full-time provider, as there was no way we could put 2 kids in full-time care, so once again, my sainted wife will have to spend at least another 2 years as a full-time mum. My wife and I are old people, 42 male, 40 female, who tried to have kids earlier in life, but couldn't despite multiple treatments, and only succeeded when we stopped trying so hard and resigned ourselves to the thoughts of a comfortable dual income, no kids lifestyle full of travel and memories. Bringing one life into this world at 40 after everything we went through was a laugh, only for life to turn around and bless me with a second child. My wife is overjoyed, and I am happy, but terrified of how I will afford this. She applied for part-time seasonal work to help with our bills, but the job she was hired for has given her exactly 2 shifts in 2 weeks and taken one of those shifts away at the last minute due to overstaffing. She has a meeting with them today to find out if it's worth her time to stay employed there, dependent on if they can actually give her, at the least, 20 hours a week, which she requested upon applying. We have had joint finances since we were engaged. We don't hide things from each other. We are both well aware of our money issues and have been working on ways to improve our financial situation. We have and will keep communication open. It was our promise made to each other 13 years ago to never shoulder our burdens alone. Lastly, I am humbled by your offers for charity, dear strangers. Truly and deeply humbled. I cannot accept them, be it out of foolish pride or some other moral driver, but know that your kind words and even kinder offers have softened my resolve to cancel Christmas this year. I just spent 2 days with co-workers volunteering at 2 local food banks preparing meals, clothes, and groceries for the community. So if you are one of the many wonderful strangers who offered help, please give that help to your local charity. I still have a roof over my head and food in my belly, and I could not ask for more, not when I have so much already. I still dread the thought of lugging that old fake tree out of the laundry room, but my feelings have to come third, here and always. My wife and daughter need the love and joy that old tree will bring, and I need to give them everything I can, even if it's just the spirit of the season. They deserve to feel the warmth of a festive home, and we already own the damn thing, so it's literally the least I can do. My present will be the 1 million pictures my wife will take of our daughter pulling all the ornaments she can reach off the tree and showing them to her with that beautiful smile she has. Our families are close by, and our parents will no doubt do their best to spoil our daughter, and I know it will be more than enough. And now on to the final update. So it's been 2 weeks, and somehow the messages are still coming in. Thankfully, the offers of charity have stopped. He is hoping they were redirected to their communities, but a good deal of them asking whether or not I stopped being a Grinch and started being a good husband and father again. So, to get those people placated first, here you go. I decorated. I also spoke with a financial advisor who was helping me set up a budget for 2020, and a counselor who helped me realize that I was worth more than the goods I could offer someone. She recommended 2 separate therapists to me, and neither are taking new patients before the new year, so for now, my wife and I are working on our budget and cleaning out various corners of the house for things to sell. So far, we have gotten rid of some of the unused basement furniture, a mini fridge that has been empty for 2 years, a bunch of wine racks and paraphernalia. We don't drink at home since the baby was born 2 years ago, so no need to keep it around. As well as some other things, and made about $750. More than enough to pay all the overdue bills, put some money in savings, and groceries in the cupboard. It's going to be a long road ahead to pay off this credit card debt, but we are finally addressing the issue head on and moving in the right direction. Since my last paycheck, that covered mortgage and utilities, no worries there for those who asked if I was behind, thank you. I have also been offered and taken 3 DJ gigs for holiday parties, 2 for personal friends and acquaintances' businesses, 1 for a charity. I refused payment for the children's charity gig, instead offering to give the money right back to the kids instead, which was gratefully accepted by the organizer. The extra cash from the 2 paying gigs paid down some more debt, and was enough left over to allow me to have bought some nice new books and a Moana doll for my little girl to open on Christmas morning, to say nothing of the bags of presents from both sets of grandparents full of clothes and toys, so she'll be fine from a present standpoint. Inspired by everyone's offers of charity, I volunteered again at Paul's Place in Baltimore, where this time I donned the hairnet and apron and served hot meals. Cell phones are prohibited inside, plus taking photos of yourself doing charity work defeats the purpose of said work. I also organized a food drive at my office to provide meal kits for Christmas for needy families, and we were able to donate 574 pounds of food to the MD Food Bank. Thank you to all who reached out and made me realize that I really was an asshole. I let my personal shortcomings almost ruin a holiday for my wife and child. It won't be as fancy as our last Christmases, but I have a feeling that this year will be very special to me, no matter how little is under my tree. I realized that I have all the gifts I need, and I cannot thank the beautiful people who offered up so much charity to a grumpy stranger. I didn't need to accept your gifts to accept your love, and the offers alone changed my life. Happy holidays, y'all. Happiest of holidays from a fellow Baltimorean. I bet your little ones would love a walk through 34th Street to see all the lights too. This is a wonderful post, and I'm so glad your holiday will be special. You are worthy of it. As another Baltimorean, I 100% support this idea, especially since they now shut down the block so you can walk around without the worry of cars driving through. On the one hand, so wholesome. On the other, looking at the timeline, OP was just getting their crap together when COVID hit. New baby, plus isolation, plus money troubles, plus pandemic. I hope they're all still doing okay. I had the same thought. Oh man, just after February is when things went bad for everyone, and I hope they made it through okay. My best friend asked if I would be her sperm donor for her surrogate, and I am in love with her, but she has no idea. So for a bit of background, we met in college and have been best friends since then. We hooked up once years ago. It was a drunken exchange, and I honestly chalked it up to we were both drunk and in the right place. She got ovarian cancer that was stage 3 a few years back and survived and has been in remission. However, she had to have a complete hysterectomy. She had mentioned a year ago she was considering surrogacy. She had told me she planned to use a donor as she has been single for a while. The thing is, I am in love with her, and I have been for years, but she has no idea. I know at one point she had feelings for me, but I was seeing someone then, and out of respect for my girlfriend at the time, she never acted on it. I feel like before I give her an answer, which will be yes, I should tell her how I feel. I want to make her dream of motherhood come true, and I am honestly touched she thinks so highly of me, she wants me to be the father. Regardless of how she feels, I will still donate, and if she doesn't still feel the same way, I will love her as my best friend. I guess I'm trying to find the best way to ask her, and I came to Reddit for advice. So how should I handle this? I'm confused. I understand she cannot carry a child, and so she needs another woman to do that, but I don't understand why she needs a sperm donor unless she's trying to be a single mom, or is a lesbian. Wouldn't she use her partner's sperm, or am I reading this wrong? OP says she is single, and her plans are to be a single mom. She is a doctor and makes good money, so she can easily raise a child on her own if she needs to. Just FYI, sperm donation in an informal setting can lead to financial responsibility, child support, for the man. You may think you can do this because you trust everyone involved, but sometimes relationships fall apart and there is still the best interests of the child in front of the court. You will then be both the sperm and financial donor for the next 18 years. If you can work the donation through a legal sperm donation intermediary that can give you some legal standoff and protection, then maybe. Otherwise, you are the financial dad as well as the biological dad. Maybe you're okay with child support and still want to go forward. I'm just saying, child support in this setting is a thing. Quote, regardless of how she feels, I will still donate. Hell to the no. You know what is worse than unrequited love? When you combine a kid with your DNA into the mix. Tell her how you feel and then proceed very slowly. There are only 2 positive outcomes for you in this situation. 1, bow out from being a donor and distance yourself from this woman, and you develop a relationship with someone who reciprocates your feelings. 2, build a family with this woman, but she has to be as into it, and you guys need to figure out if you work as partners before throwing a child into the mix. Notice how neither of those options involve you carelessly handing out your man batter? What if you donate sperm, she has a kid, and then meets somebody, and then that person will be raising your DNA with her? Will you be alright with that? You really need to tell her how you feel. Even if she reciprocates your feelings, she may want to table having a kid for a while as you two adjust to a new relationship. And now, onto the update. So I appreciate all the feedback. Most of you were nice. There was a few idiots telling me that I needed to be alpha and be more manly, but whatever. Anyway, the consensus with my real-life friends was I needed to tell her. We do brunch on Saturdays because she does yoga Sundays, so we met up this morning. I could barely eat and she could tell something was up. She got worried, thinking I was going to say no or something worse, so by the time we took a walk, both of us were nervous wrecks. I sat her down and told her everything, how I realized I was in love with her several years back, but was too much of a chicken shit to come clean. I told her that I never said anything because I didn't want to jeopardize our friendship. Her face turned white, and then a myriad of expressions came over her face, and she started laughing till tears came down her face. I honestly was so stunned. My stomach was in my throat, and I honestly thought that almost 12 years of friendship were down the toilet. Then she started crying, sobbing really, and she lightly hit my chest. She half laughed and sobbed that she was in love with me too, but she thought that it would also impede the friendship that we had, and she wanted nothing to screw up what we have. We hugged, and I told her there was no one on this earth that I would want to have a child with but her. We talked for hours. In fact, I just got home. We have decided that we want to focus on us for now. I want us to be at that point that we can do it together. I know that this isn't a rom-com, and that things could end up not working out for us in the end. However, I am pretty sure if there is such thing as soulmates, she's mine. Thank you guys and gals for giving me the courage to tell her. And now in the comments. It's an amazing feeling coming clean to someone you've been in love with for years. It took me 5 years to tell my now wife. Congrats, man. Take everything as it comes. Nothing is wrong or right from here. And one tip, communicate always. And if you're unsure of anything, ask. Agreed. I came clean to my best friend 6 years ago, after 4 years in love, and we've been together ever since. We were engaged and getting married in September 2019. It was such a relief to finally tell him and have the emotions reciprocated. We still talk about our journey and laugh about it, and reflect on how fortunate we are to have each other with such a solid foundation. In the end, I was more terrified of being a missed opportunity and not knowing what could have been, more than I was afraid of anything else. I'm so glad there are others out there with us. Apparently there's another update on r/wedding planning, saying wedding in Seattle/Tacoma area. We already eloped, but are looking to have a reception where she grew up. We are looking at 30 to 50 guests max. It'll be next spring, around early to mid-March. We are going to be in the area this August, and would love to have a few places to check out. Anyone that could give us a few suggestions or places that they used would be much appreciated. And there is another comment that says, missed the more detailed update 2 years ago. Well, she lost her job and started having medical issues. Meanwhile, we as usual spent all our free time together, and she just ended up moving in my place. I broached the subject of us getting married so she could get my health benefits, as she has at least 2 surgeries coming up. So we drove to Vegas and got married. We plan on doing things right next year and having a proper ceremony. The whole kids thing is off the table for a while until she gets better and things settle down. We're in Southern Cali currently, so she can have the first of her surgeries Thursday. So that is the most current update. Aw, 20 plus years ago, this situation, barring sperm donation, was me and my now husband. We had been friends since grade 6 and had crushes on each other the whole time. But it took meeting my college best friend and her banging our heads together to figure it out. I thought he was too cool and he thought that I was too glamorous, but it turns out we are both clueless nerds. Either way, we now have a home, a kid, a dog, and 15 years of marriage together. And also a cancer diagnosis and unrelated infertility journey, but who's counting? Our next post is titled, I don't enjoy being a father. To a toddler 1 to 3 years old. So I'm writing this because I just don't know what to do anymore. My daughter is such hard work, I feel like locking myself in the toilet and crying. She has made me cry a couple times in her short spell on Earth. She was unplanned. My girlfriend was 30 to my 27 at the time of conception. My girlfriend is from an Irish Catholic family, so abortion was never even considered. My girlfriend had a horrendous pregnancy and was so sick every day. She couldn't even drink water without throwing up. It was bad. The day she was born, I cried as she was given to me, but as I got home I felt a sense of dread. I never had much confidence in myself, and I didn't have a clue what to do. She had colic almost straight away and would cry non-stop for hours. We got her into a little routine, and then COVID hit. For 7 months, it was just me and my girlfriend. No one else held her. And as I worked upstairs, she seemed to only want her mother. That's now still the case. She has the worst separation anxiety from her mother. She cries if she's not 2 feet away. We put her into nursery twice a week and she loves it once she's there, but every day is a battle. With me, she likes to include me sometimes, but the majority of the time I walk into a room and she says, "No, Dada, go." Or when it's bedtime, it's only her mother who can put her to bed. It's like she hates me sometimes. My poor girlfriend is so drained and tries to include me, but the baby cries until she's sick. I feel lost and lonely and confused. I never thought having a child would be easy, but to be this difficult? My favorite part of the day is when it's time to go to bed so I can lie in the darkness and fantasize about something else. Then my daughter will have a nightmare, which is 3 to 4 times a week, and we have to spend the next hour trying to console her. She's a lot better with people now, a little shy but comes around. She shows no signs of autism, but some behavioral issues that is normal for her age. I do love her, by the way, I really, really do, but I just feel so down and sad about it. I'm wishing my life away, and I don't know how to make it better. And now in the comments, "You're letting her run the show, my man. I'm a stay-at-home mother, and when I need a break after my husband got home, it's all about buckling down and spending time together bonding over something she loves. With that opening, other things will follow. It took my husband forever to find that niche with our daughter because little girls seem to hold grudges against daddy because they see less of dad when dad is at work full-time. It's hard. Being a parent is hard. Thing is, she's going to cry. My daughter threw down when Hubs tried taking her to the park, fishing, feeding the ducks. I mean, you name it, he was trying it, and one day, bang, it was like a switch flipped, and she was ready to go frog hunting with daddy and telling me to leave. It truly is repetition and effort. Kids feel it when we aren't happy, not interested, and also I'm not saying that you aren't, I'm just saying that they are intuitive and they are smarter than we give them credit for. Or if we are closed off. Trying to give her something sweet like y'all stopping in at an ice cream shop or some froyo and take her to the park. How old is your daughter now? And OP replies, "What age was she when she turned?" I'm trying, I really, really am. Let's go to the park. Let's go on a bus. Let's go explore the woods. Let's take the dog for a walk. Let's draw a picture. Do you want to have an airplane ride? Do you want to jump on the bed? Etc, etc, etc. All the responses are met with mama. Sometimes she lets me, other times she tries to fight me, and she's too young to understand fully what's going on. She just turned 2 years old. Also, mama should start saying no, like, "Mama, can you do this?" "No, I'm busy. Dada is free though." A lot of kids start liking dada more when mama starts saying no. And OP replies, "She does try as well. Bless her. She is an incredible mother. Our relationship is suffering from this as well." Do you do as much as you can to support her? Like clean the dishes and house, cook, back massages? Do you allow her at least 1 hour of time a day when you take your child out of the house, screaming or not, while she showers just to give her a mental break? Do you do laundry and make the bed? Now, I'm sure you are doing as much as you can to help out other than the baby, as you sound like a supportive boyfriend. But do try to alleviate the things she has to do when she's not with the child, and I'm sure your relationship will be better. And OP replies, "Yes, I do all those things. We live with my parents at the moment though, so it's tough to have a bit of alone time. My husband had to drag my kid kicking and screaming to bath time today. I had to do something, and I was trying my hardest not to respond at all. If I did, I would validate my kids' complaints and invalidate Dad's attempts in helping me. I've gotten the advice to stand with Dad and say, Dad can do bath too, or something, but kid will scream harder about once instead. So we've tried just gritting teeth through it. 5 minutes in, kid's happy as a clam playing with Dad. I got 20 minutes to myself. The caveat, I think my kid's actually pretty easy despite being very attached to me. Some kids might make you feel like giving in is easier than standing your ground. My point? Mum trying to include you doesn't work if she's around or available, or responds if kid complains. Kid knows that there is that option, Mum. Also, if you give in, she knows she can insist on Mum. Sometimes you're just going to have to do alone time without Mum, even if it's miserable. Keep your calm, consistent demeanor and do it. For us, it helped that Dad did different things, fun things, surprising things. So even though kid wants Mum, once kid accepts Dad's only option, kid knows it'll be fun. Dad is always novel. It'll take time, the tantrum still happens every time, but once kid is settled, they bond and have a good time. Hang in there. And now onto the update. About 6 to 7 weeks ago, I wrote a post saying I don't enjoy being a father. I wrote it when I was upset and didn't know what I was doing. I felt lost, suicidal, and I was really at the end of my tether. Your comments and kindness and advice were greatly appreciated, and I took the time to read every single one. Afterwards, I said to myself, only I can change this. I looked long and hard in the mirror. What could I do to improve my relationship with my daughter? It's up to me to change. So I decided no matter what my daughter did, I wouldn't get angry. I would listen more, and even though she isn't communicating fully, I tried to understand her better. The first week or two were pretty much the same, hitting and screaming the house down, but I got on her level. I spoke softly to her. I didn't ask if she wanted to go and see the moon, I made her come with me. If she cried, I made sure I cuddled her and spoke softly and told her about the man in the moon, the stars in the sky. I did this every night. 4 weeks ago, everything, and I mean everything, changed. I was going to the shops and she said, Dada, shop. I was shocked. I asked if she wanted to come with me and she said yes. Her mother, whom she wouldn't ever leave her side, was shocked as well. We went shopping together and had fun. The week after we went to the zoo, just the two of us, and a week after to the play center. I firmly believe I am no longer Daddy, a man who just lives in her house. I am now Daddy, her best friend. Her words, not mine. Protector and tickle machine. Her demeanor has changed so much that now when I start work in the morning, as I work from home, she has been getting on my knee and crying and saying, Daddy, no work, Daddy play. She started in the big room in nursery, and my girlfriend said she was hysterical her first day, but it was me that she was asking for. I cannot believe the difference in her behavior with me, and it makes me so happy. I've gone from dreading seeing her because I don't know what her mood is, to being genuinely excited to see her so we can play and learn together. It's taken me a while, but now I am the dad that I am going to be to her, and she is going to love me for it. At least until she becomes a teenager anyway. So to all of you, your kind words and advice, I thank you. Have a great Christmas and keep your families safe. I remember your post so well, and my heart broke for you. I'm so proud of you and so happy to hear this outcome. Your relationship with her is changing for the better every day. And OP replies, thank you. I had to change, not her. I won't ever let her down again. One thing to keep in mind is that you won't be perfect. You may let her down again, but that's okay. As long as you learn and keep trying, that's what is most important. Give yourself grace to occasionally fail and you'll be alright. And OP says to that, I was so hard on myself like I have been my entire life. I have no confidence in myself, and as soon as something gets tough, I usually quit. I hate that trait about myself. So when she pushed me away, I thought, I don't blame her, etc. But it's time to stop the self-pity and give her the best dad possible. I'm not as nervous or anxious that she's going to kick off, and I believe she can sense a more relaxed daddy, which in turn relaxes her. I'm preparing myself for bad times as well as good. That's life. But good or bad, I am going nowhere. You can do this, bro. Remember that when she's difficult, she's not giving you a hard time, she's having a hard time. Looking at it that way helps me feel less like a failure when something goes wrong and more like a teammate. Gives me extra points in patience and composure. This was beautiful. Big well done for the change, and hope you're feeling better, mental health-wise. OP says thank you. The fact that you put so much effort into making these changes shouts that you are going to be, and already are, a wonderful dad. Not everyone would put in even half of your effort, especially when feeling suicidal. Sincerely, thank you for doing that for your little girl. I hope your mental health keeps improving. Take care and happy holidays to you and yours. OP says, as long as she's happy and calling me daddy, I'll be happy. My issue was that she didn't seem happy in my company. Now I'm her protector, someone she knows will help her. The fact she was crying for me and not my girlfriend at nursery speaks volumes. That would have never happened 3 months ago. This one started off so heartbreaking. The resolution reminds me of Frankel's man's search for meaning, and how when everything feels like it's been stripped away, we still get to choose how we react to a given situation. A hard lesson to learn, but a valuable one. And this post is another reminder that Reddit can sometimes help bring people out of their fog. Not just the fear, obligation, guilt that comes with narcissistic family territory, but also help them see their situation more clearly and how they may be able to bring about the change from the inside. So glad the update turned out the way it did. I feared the worst. That first part is actually my worst fear, that I would hate my hypothetical child. So glad to see that OP was able to turn this around so well. Me too. Children are so difficult and there is no real breaks. It's just 24/7. It's incredible OP was able to turn this around without professional help. This was a beautiful ending. That said, we really need better support in place for first-time parents because it is super common for toddlers to play favorites with their parents, and it's a lot easier to cope with that and parent lovingly anyway if you know it's typical and the allegiance will probably change at some point. I feel betrayed by my girlfriend from the way we entered into our relationship, and I feel deceived about how she has portrayed herself. We met 3 years ago at a party of a mutual friend. Once we were introduced, we ended up spending the entire rest of the party just sitting and talking to one another. It really felt like we were the only 2 people there, and as the night ended, she told me that she really enjoyed talking to me and asked me for my number, which was a first for me. I awoke the next morning to a text from her telling how much she enjoyed talking with me and wanted to know if I would be interested in getting together to talk some more. I agreed, and that next weekend, we met at a local bookstore/coffee house where we proceeded to spend 5 hours talking until the shop kicked us out because they were closing. Not once in either of the conversations did we talk about anything romantic or love or anything like that. It was everything from philosophy to economics to religion and everything in between. Once again, she tells me she has had a great time and asks if we can do this again. We set a time for the next weekend, and same exact thing happens again. This goes on for 3 more times, and I am very confused as to what this is. Are we just friends getting together to talk? Is this going anywhere else? I had no idea. She sends me a text that week prior to meeting, telling me that I am the easiest person she has ever talked to, and that she feels totally comfortable and safe being with me. So finally, at the end of the day, when she says she wants to do this again, I just said that I was curious as to what she considered these times together as. I asked if we are just friends, or was there a possibility of being more? She said that she really enjoyed our time together and would like to see where it goes. Next time we are together, as we are talking, I kind of reached out and took her hand, and we held hands for the first time for several minutes. I tell her at the end of this night that next time I would like to do something different with her and took her to the movies. Things went well, and during the movie I put my arm around her and she laid her head on my shoulder. As we parted that night, I gathered up my courage and leaned in to give her a kiss goodnight. Her response was not what I expected. She actually withdrew from my attempt, and I immediately apologized to her and felt like a total heel. She said that I didn't need to apologize, but she was just a little shocked as she wasn't expecting it. I quickly apologized again and withdrew for the night, embarrassed beyond belief. She texted me the very next day saying she was sorry about the night before. She really liked me and wants to move that direction in our relationship, but she wanted to take things slow. I replied saying that I was willing to go at whatever speed she wanted, and again, apologized because I felt really bad. Now, mind you, while I said I was willing to go at her speed, and I was really confused by what taking it slow meant. We had been seeing each other once a week for hours at a time for over 2 months, but being very inexperienced in the relationship game, as I only had a girlfriend in high school and went out on dates in college, but mostly as friends and nothing ever lasted, I just thought that I would let her take the lead. We went out 2 more times, and then at the beginning of our next date, she actually greeted me with a kiss. From there, our relationship advanced at what I consider a normal pace. A year and a half later, we were living together, and in my opinion, everything was going great. That is until 2 weeks ago, she had to pick me up at my work because my car was in the shop. She pulled up and was sitting in the car, and one of my co-workers who I'm friendly with came out with me as he was leaving at the same time. I introduced them from a distance, but clearly within view of each other. They waved hello, and we left. The next day I came back, and he said he wanted to make sure there wasn't going to be a problem between the two of us. I asked him why would there be, and he said, "She didn't say anything to you." I said she did not, and he said, well, it was a couple of years ago, so she may not even remember him, and then he proceeds to tell me that they matched up on Tinder and would hook up with each other, and it went on for a few months before he started dating his current girlfriend. I told him that it might have been a different person, and he then proceeds to show me her Tinder profile. I have never used this site before, so I wasn't sure how to look at anything, but he said that it does not look like she is active and on there now, and hasn't been for a while. But the fact of the matter was that for sure it was her, and to make matters worse, I didn't tell him this, but the time frame that he was saying was also some of the same time that we were together in the beginning. The times I was rebuked for leaning in for a kiss, and quite possibly even after this. He could tell this was bothering me, and he apologized, but said that I needed to know that they were never dating or anything. It was just getting together to have sex, as though I was supposed to be okay with that. He didn't want to say much else, but he said that I should know that he knows for a fact that he wasn't the only one. Needless to say, this all upset me greatly, but I didn't know what to do or how to handle this. It was eating away at me, and I did something I probably shouldn't have done, but we share an Outlook calendar, and have for over a year, so that we can plan our events. While she was gone, I looked at her laptop and found her Outlook, which was nothing more than what we shared. However, I noticed that she had a separate calendar, and it was not password protected. I went back on her calendar, even though I knew it was wrong, and sure as crap, there was his first name. And yes, for fact, some of those dates were after we were already past the getting to know you stage. But wait, there's more. Not only was his name there, but there were several other guys' names. There were weeks where she had a different name on every day of the week, and twice had 2 names on weekend days. What made me the sickest of all, though, was looking at the weeks where we were early on in our relationship, when I had to basically be afraid to hold her hand, that she was meeting with other guys that week, and even one time earlier in the day that we met. How do I know this, you might ask? Well, my name was on there as well. Now, it does appear that about 5 months after we started dating, the names mostly stopped, and by a year in, there were no more names. But what really sucks is that one guy's name is on there more than others, and this is a guy who she has brought to our house on more than one occasion and introduced us. She has never once told me that they were ever sexual partners. In fact, that's kind of what pisses me off about all of this. Frankly, if I didn't know any of this, I would tell you she was a prude. Sex is very vanilla, and I always have to initiate it. However, she just told me not more than a month ago that she feels like I'm her soulmate, and she loves me with all of her heart. This is causing me a lot of pain, to be honest. I don't think I can live with this, The fact that I had to wait for months to even kiss and hold hands, while all along she was getting sex from a variety of people, makes me feel like absolute crap. The fact that I honestly was beating myself up after trying for a kiss really pisses me off. Then there is a part of me that says I'm not good enough. Sure, she may enjoy my personality or whatever, but obviously the fact that I'm not attractive enough for her to want to be with me early on really bothers me. I mean, it would be one thing if she did all of this before we met, but there are names marked clearly after we were involved, just before we moved in together, including the guy that I work with. I have yet to confront her, I don't know what I'm going to do or say. There is a very large part of me that just wants out of this. I feel like she's not the person she portrayed herself to be. Oh, believe me, she is a very judgmental person and has tons of opinions and comes across as holier than thou, even though she's not religious per se. Has anyone else ever had to deal with this? A number of people who have commented already have mentioned that she was probably weighing up her options and such before committing to you, and mentioned that it's a relatively common thing to do. And to an extent, they're right, but there's one serious issue here. When a person wants to date in this manner, the onus is on them to ensure that their partners are aware of this. That way, everyone knows where they stand, can act accordingly, and there is less risk of feelings being hurt. But based on what I've read here, this girl has done the exact opposite of that. Seriously? She didn't even tell him about this after they were together? This is enough of a breach of trust that I would certainly understand if you ended things outright, OP. Still, you could bring it up to her. You don't even have to mention the computer, just mentioning what the coworker said would give you both plenty to discuss. Multi-dating before being official isn't an issue to me. I've done it too, and to some extent, it's a part of the game for many people. Though I've given previous significant others a heads up that I'm in exploration stage, so to say. I'm a very open dude. However, that part with her introducing a guy who she screwed to you several times on purpose without saying anything, or omitting the part where she hooked up with your coworker, is pretty crap in my honest opinion. Especially bringing that guy in. I would never do that, and I'm a pretty open-minded person. It also feels like a kink. That alone would be enough to leave a bad taste in my mouth, so I can empathize with how you feel considering you were more reserved in the pre-getting official dating stage. Sorry, my man. I didn't get this part. Quote, now it does appear that about 5 months after we started dating, the names mostly stopped. Maybe because your post was long? I didn't get at what point did you actually start dating for real. 5 months in with some names still appearing doesn't sound good at all. And OP replies, that's really the problem here. I have no idea when to say we started dating. There was never an official declaration or anything ever really. We started going out weekends, and it just kept slowly progressing to where one day we were kissing, then a few dates after that we slept together for the first time, and then eventually moved in together. She was telling me early on that she was developing feelings for me. So in other words, I am totally screwed up over this because I don't know how to view this. For that matter, we still have never defined the relationship, although we live together. But at the end of the day, I am not in a court of law here. This is far more about emotions for me than technicality. As I said, I feel for you, my man. Sorry that you've found yourself in such a situation. It seems that really, the only solution here is to have a frank, painfully open talk with her. You need to get this out of your system, else it will simmer slowly until it consumes you fully. Again, I am not blaming her for the approach that she had in the initial stages, but these small elements like introducing the guy and this absolute lack of clarity about your relationship are red flags to me. The guy introduction thing actually made me feel uncomfortable too. Have you been active in trying to define the relationship, or did you just assume that it might get defined by itself in time? How has she reacted if you've tried to define it after this initial multi-dating period that you mentioned in the post? Also, if you get to the talk, be very attentive of her reactions and how she frames the situation. It might be incompatibility in approach and values in the initial stage of dating, or it could be you getting settled for because she feels like her wild days are over. Never get settled for. That applies to both men and women. Rooting for you, bro. And now, onto the update. After thinking about this a lot, I decided that if everything was true, I didn't believe I could live with it. From my point of view, not only did it change the entire basically first year of our relationship, it fundamentally changed who I thought she was. I mean, we can all have different ways that we react around people, but there are some things you can't just be one way one day and one way another day. But after reading some of the replies to my first post, I agreed with a couple of things. 1. Just because the names were there, it doesn't necessarily mean she was sleeping with or even dating those guys. As was said, my name was in there, and we sure as hell weren't having sex during a lot of these times. 2. Leaving without at least giving her a chance to explain things seemed wrong as well, which led to the dilemma that I faced. How do I tell her that I know about all of these names? As a reminder, I snooped. I certainly could just tell her about my coworker, but how would I know about all of the other names? So I just basically decided to tell her about the coworker and see what happened from there. This was the most unpleasant conversation I've ever had, because on top of everything, the girlfriend I've had has been great. We've never fought or even had a hint of disagreement or betrayal. I love who I thought she was, so I couldn't just bail without at least talking about it. She acted like she didn't know my coworker. She acted like she was shocked he would say this, and said honestly she didn't remember him. At first, I was buying everything she was selling because I wanted to, and also because she was very convincing. However, I showed her the Tinder profile, and she started to get a little defensive. She said yes, she had Tinder at one time, but hasn't been on it for years, which according to my coworker was true. So I was just going to drop it and just go on, but at the last minute I said to her, "He told me the dates that you went out and how it crossed times with when you and I were together," to which she said he was lying because it ended well before we became a couple. That is when I knew she was lying. She had told me that she didn't recognize him, but when confronted with the timeline, she now claimed to know him and said timeline was wrong. When I pointed out her logical flaw to her, she became frustrated and started crying. My initial response was to comfort her, but midway through doing that, I decided that she might very well be doing this to manipulate me, and said that while I was there for her, I wanted to know the truth. And this is where I sort of lied to her. I told her he provided me with in-depth timeline and showed me the dates on his calendar. She said she honestly did not know when, but she thought that it was over before we became a couple. This is when I made my mistake of asking when did she consider us a couple. She said she considered us a couple when we moved in together. Let me remind everyone that we were seeing each other for almost 2 years before we moved in together. So I asked her during that time frame if she had dated anyone else. She was emphatic that she didn't date anyone at all. So I know it was crude, but I just came out and said, okay, maybe not date anyone, but did you have sex with anyone? She didn't answer me, and I knew my answer. By this time, she is crying uncontrollably, telling me how much she loved me, how everything was way in the past, etc., etc. I decided to give her a break before I confronted her because she legitimately was hyperventilating. Once she calmed down, I just said that I knew about the guy who she brought to our house as well. This one was obviously a subject that she was dreading because she went from crying hysterically to pale as a ghost. At this point, she starts trying to apologize and says that none of the other guys have ever meant anything to her and that I am the love of her life. I told her that the only way I would even consider working through this would be for her to come clean 100% right there and then. And I kind of let her know that I already know other things and would tell how I know if I have to. This was the one thing I now regret because she just flat out told me everything. Things I never in a million years wanted to know. Including confirming that yes, she has met with Tinder dates twice on days that we met later in the evening. She said she did not consider us official, and we hadn't even really said what we were doing was dating with those 2 times. Date-wise, she is correct from the standpoint that this was before we kissed. Anyway, I told her that I needed time to think about it, and told her that I was going to stay with a friend. She begged me not to go, she very legitimately was upset, and said none of this was meant to hurt me. She didn't understand why I was so upset about the stuff from before we met, but said she sees why I would be upset about things that happened after we met. I left to stay with a friend, but I agreed to keep the line of communications open. She sent me a very long, emotional text the next morning, explaining how as a teenager, she never respected herself and used sex to validate herself, and that she had never understood what a real relationship was or what love was until she met me. It was very long and detailed, but that was the gist of it. I responded that I thanked her for her honesty, but I laid out how her making me wait, and more to the point making me feel like a creep for just trying to reach out and kiss her while she was getting screwed by any number of guys, was very hurtful to me, and frankly, had made me doubt myself as a man and absolutely destroyed any romantic notions I had of our relationship. She did not respond to my text, so I could not decide if she was upset or mad at me. But a half hour later, my friend tells me she's at the door and she is very emotional. Did I want him to let her see me? I went to the door and she immediately begins crying harder than I've ever seen anyone cry. She couldn't even talk. She kept trying, but it made no sense. I got her to sit down and she threw herself at me, trying to hug me. After she calmed down a little, she finally got out that she was so sorry she never meant to hurt me. Eventually, after quite some time, she calmed down enough to talk, and she let it be known that what I wrote to her was heartbreaking. She never even considered it that way. She tried to explain that she was so in love with me that she didn't want to mess it up with sex, and wanted us to be what she thought we had become. I let her go on, but eventually explained to her that while that may be her point of view, it certainly was not mine. I just went ahead and explained that it made me feel unattractive and less desirable than guys who supposedly meant nothing to her. Well, I went on for a while myself, but I'll spare you the details. I just told her that there was no way for me to go back to what we had because I do not view her as the same person anymore. That knowing that she willingly had sex with other people after she had sex with me was just a deal breaker. She jumped in and said that it never happened after we slept together. She said she would freely admit to sleeping with other guys up until we kissed, but after that night, she knew that she loved me and cut everything else out. I have no way of knowing, obviously. Of course, I have no faith in what she said. However, I do have her calendar, and it pretty much does show a rapid slowdown right around that time. I told her I still need time, and again, she texted that night with a very emotional letter, acknowledging my feelings over this, and told me the fact that she hurt me makes her feel worse than anything, that she would do anything to make this work. Swore that she has never and will never cheat on me since she fell in love with me. So I'm still here at my friend's house. I still don't know for sure what I'm going to do. I do love her, and I can tell she is not faking this at all. She is an emotional wreck. I've called her family to have them go check on her, just told them that we were having a rough time and would prefer to not answer anything else at this time. I again want to stress this because I don't think it came across in my first post. Her personality does not show any of this at all. In fact, she is quite judgmental about people who do what she did. She never said she was a virgin, by the way, so let's not go that far. But she absolutely led me to believe that she only believed in sex in the confines of a relationship. That is now a confirmed lie. I'm supposed to meet her Friday. I'm not sure if I will or won't. Sorry that it's not a finalized update, but I've gotten quite a few requests asking what's going on. I want to point out that she kept lying and trickle-truthing through this whole process. You had to pull all info out of her. It changed the more you questioned. Can you trust what she's saying now? Also, she has a damn good idea how you'd feel about this. That's why she kept it a secret and then lied at first questioning. It's unfortunate that I can only upvote this once. OP, you have to realize that this woman would not have told you anything about the situation had you not revealed how much you knew. Maybe she wasn't manipulative per se, but she was looking for every opportunity to weasel her way out of the situation. And she still is, considering she was so willing to violate your desire for distance. I said in your last post that I'd understand if you broke up with her over it, and since she still attempted to get more lies of omission by you, I really think you're at the point where you need to strongly consider whether a future with this girl is even possible. As you say yourself, the faith and trust in this relationship are completely gone. The rest usually follows, whether the couple wants it to or not. So, what is with the guy that she invited to your house? I guess that was at the time after you two already had sex. What about all the other guys? Is she still in contact with any of them? Have you asked her if she's ever gotten tested for STDs before she had sex with you, no matter if they used condoms or not? If she didn't, then do that now. No matter how long it's been, she needs to understand the risk that she exposed you to. You should get tested as well. Before you jump to any decision, really think deeply about if you can deal with what you have found out, because if you stay with her, while at the same time you can't let go of that, you will make both of your lives miserable. Dude, she didn't even respect your wish to have time away from her. I have no issue with people sleeping around, whether men or women. She's allowed to have a history before you, and she had no obligation to put out before she was ready to have a physical relationship with you. But some people here seem to be missing the point. This isn't about her body count or past history. This is about cheating while you two are in a monogamous relationship. You guys have been seeing each other for 3 years, moved in 2 years ago. It's safe to say that you were in a committed relationship way before you moved in. And you said the names of the guys she met in her calendar stopped being written 1 year after you started dating. At some point, it stopped being casual hookups with random guys while you were testing the waters and became actual cheating. She didn't respect your relationship before moving in, still doesn't respect you. She cheated on you. You were dating for almost 2 years before moving in, and she didn't consider you a couple? She's got audacity, I'll give her that. But there is no other way to put it. She cheated, and when confronted about it, she lied. When she couldn't deny it anymore, she deflected. She has never been honest with you, and just because she stopped updating her secret calendar doesn't mean she necessarily stopped seeing men behind your back. She didn't even think about deleting it. You will always have doubt if what she says is the truth or some deceit. You want to trust her, but can you? Maybe she stopped after you moved in together like she said, but can you forgive and move past the lying and the cheating? And just because in her mind it wasn't cheating, doesn't mean that it wasn't. Also, are her tears genuine? Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Remember, she has been lying to you all this time about such important things. She also introduced you to one of the guys that she slept with without batting an eye, pretending not to remember your colleague. How can you say for sure that you know her and that she is genuine? She is giving you the most ridiculous reasons and excuses. She's full of lies and is playing you like a violin. And now onto our final update. I'm sorry for making another post. I was going to tack this on my last one, but for some reason my post kept getting locked, and I haven't even been able to respond to people on the second one. I have been getting buried in chat requests and private messages asking me for an update. So instead of answering each one, I'm just going to post this here and hope that it doesn't get deleted. Late Thursday afternoon, I met with a friend who knew of her but had never met her. I wanted someone with a complete fresh perspective and outside voice. In other words, someone who didn't know her and had formed an opinion of her. I explained everything that I wrote in the first 2 posts and just asked his opinion. He said that he wasn't going to give an opinion because he and I were not alike, but what he would do is ask me to consider some questions. 1. Would I have pursued her if I knew that she was actively having sex with multiple partners? 2. Would I have willingly continued the relationship early on if I knew that she was coming on obvious dates with me but was having sex with multiple partners? 3. Knowing now what I didn't know then, do I see her as the same person who I dated, fell in love with, and moved in together? And 4, did I see a future with her where I would have an unconditional, trusting, loving relationship with her? He had other questions as well, but none were more or as important as these. I don't know why, but these questions made it crystal clear what my thoughts were and what I had to do. It doesn't mean that it was easy, nor did I like it. On Friday, I took the day off of work and 2 of my friends came with me, and while she was at work, I packed up everything that was mine from our apartment and moved it to storage. Fortunately, I don't earn that much, and decided that anything we bought together I would leave at the apartment with her. Fortunately, we are already out of our lease, and we were just renting month to month, so there is no long-term financial issue for me. But I did not want to be unfair, so I went to my savings and drew out 6 months of what would have been my part of the rent. She got home from work at around 5:30, and when she came in, she immediately saw my stuff was gone, and she dropped her bag on the floor and sat on the couch and started crying. This was the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life, and I ended up crying almost as much as she did. I just explained to her that she did not deserve to be with someone who had any doubts about her or had anything but a total positive image of who she is. I told her that I had to work on myself because in talking with my friend and reading on here, I found out that a lot of my ideas around sex and relationships are not in line with today's thinking, and I know I have to somehow get past that. I am certain she will be far better off without me because at the end of the day, I just can't be who she needs me to be. I wish I could. I wish I could just view it as no big deal, but I do. Anyway, I stayed as long as it made sense to try and comfort her, but at the end of the day, I was not doing it, so I left her curled up on the couch in tears. This certainly did not end how I thought it would or hoped it would, but at the end of the day, we are both very young and life is too short. She will easily find a new guy, and I'm going to work on myself and see if I can't grow from this. Also, before I go, I do want to respond to what several people have said about my coworker, who was the one who started all this. Obviously, I will never know his true motivation. He could just be a troublemaker, as some have stated, and I'll never know. However, my belief is that he was afraid that she said something and did not want there to be an issue between us at work. By both of their accounts, he is the one who cut it off with her to date the girl he is with now. So while it could be jealousy or whatever, I kind of doubt it. If he wanted to be with her, I think he probably still could have been because he ended whatever their relationship was. TLDR, friend asks me a series of questions that clarified my entire thought process towards this. Ended things on Friday, both of us are miserable, but ultimately this will be better for her in the long run. Dude, you gave her your share of the rent for 6 months? What the fuck? Yeah, why isn't anyone mentioning this? OP, please tell us you didn't hand her an envelope full of cash after this whole mess you just dealt with? Oh, you cheated on me regularly with 20 dudes and got screwed senseless while I got shamed for kissing your cheek? Well, I'm sorry that I'm weird and old-fashioned and therefore have to end this relationship. Here's 10k USD. OP, my reading of your posts are that of someone who doesn't value himself and has a low self-esteem. Good for you that you ended it, but how are you blaming yourself at all? Feels like, to me, that OP has no self-respect. She basically shamed him, cheated on him with multiple guys, and OP still thinks she's the one who deserves better, gives her money and just takes all the blame? Good that he finally left this relationship, but holy moly, he has a lot to learn about self-worth and self-love. You don't have to change your views on sex, my guy. Not wanting your partner to be having sex with multiple partners and lying about it by omission is not an unpopular opinion, even by today's standards. Best of luck to you. Dude, your coworker wised you up, otherwise you will never know the truth about her and probably married her. You should thank him. And him jealous of you? I don't think so. OP's friend asked some great questions. Seriously, so great that until that part I was 100% on give her a chance, she was still figuring out how sex and relationships work. After those questions, I shifted to crap. That's a really lousy foundation on which to build a lasting relationship with someone, no matter what her thinking was. As a wise Redditor once said, if I stay in this relationship, will I ever be able to forget this happened? You can forgive her, but can you live with it? The part that I can't get over is that she didn't see them as a couple until they moved in together. She said she stopped sleeping with anyone else at that point, but then later said she stopped sleeping with other guys after she slept with him. So which is it? Too many holes in her story, and she lied over and over again until he called her out. I would never trust her again. I agree. And why would she keep bringing over a guy that she had slept with right before OP over to OP and her home multiple times to hang out with them and not let OP know about their past? I would be super uncomfortable with the fact that she was hiding that. I assume they were friends with benefits or whatever, but you let your significant other know. Also, she probably told that guy not to mention anything, which would mean she was at least aware that it would be an issue. If she hadn't, I can't imagine there wouldn't have been some joke or mention in a story or similar. I don't know that everyone has the modern mindset of dating like his bro claims. Even when I was dating, it came up with every person what the other person was doing as far as dates go. Hookup, long-term, dating lots of people, etc. Not talking about that isn't modern dating. It's just an excuse for being a shitty communicator and being okay with hurting other people. It takes like 5 minutes tops to bring it up and talk about it. Gonna venture a guess and say that most modern people would consider themselves in a relationship well before they reach the stage of moving in together. I'm not saying homie doesn't need to work on himself, but X was full of crap. Alright guys, that's where I'm gonna finish today's episode. If you enjoyed it, let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below, and I'll see you later. Bye.